Regret is usually a waste of time, as is podcasting.
Good. Sure. I mean, very true.
I was saying right before we started, I have a hoarse voice today, which means I'm already like 50% of the way to a Pierce vocally.
Although I feel like he's less hoarse. This is his.
This is when he's a little butterier.
Right. He hasn't entered his horse era in 1999.
Nobody does have a little.
I mean, I'm doing full hoarseness.
Yeah. He's throaty.
There's the whisper. There's a sort of Pierce whisper, kind of. You know what I'm saying?
You're
Pierce
making him
whisper.
sound like Anthony Hopkins, though.
I have limited range here. There's only so much I can do. I was telling you, I just did fucking 5 Watto shows in a row, and I'm feeling it.
Ooh, boy.
There's only so much one man should Watto in the span of 1 week.
I agree. Yes, thank you for your Pierce Brosnan, Griffin.
Thank you.
Wow, this is weird. This is a weird vibe, Griff.
With
We're
my
in different
voice?
places.
Your
Voice is always fucked up.
Well, this is a bi-coastal record.
Woo!
And sometimes when that happens, it's because you and I and Ben are in one studio. And we have a guest who's in a different city. And thus there are 2 Zooms. And that's the division. Blank check on one side, other guest on another side. Not today.
Not today. That's you. That's my Pierce.
Today, David, home. Ben, home.
Correct.
Griff and guest in studio in Los Angeles.
Wow. In the battleship.
Hollywood.
You guys look like you're broadcasting from the Red October.
I was going to say Red October. Yes, coming live from the Red October. This is...
Can I just tell you guys,
please.
The other day we were doing a big picture and...
Likely thing for you to do.
Sure, and I'm sad to say I think it was about the film Argylle and a shot from the film Argylle.
Just quickly, Amanda, before you go any further, don't let the cat out of the bag.
Okay, no,
please
okay,
don't.
Good joke. Yeah.
Thank you. It's just you know the secret now, so don't let the cat out of the bag.
I'm not going to tell anyone.
Good. Yeah.
No spoilers, and I'm really sorry if knowing that there is a ship at some point in Argylle spoils the movie.
God damn
but
it.
anyway, we were talking about the ship, and I was like, there's that one shot, yada yada, and then I realized midway through that that was actually a shot I was remembering from Hunt for Red October, which I had recently watched in order to get into the McTiernan vibe. So, I guess I was probably giving Matthew Vaughn too much credit, but great movie.
Argylle, a movie so compelling that in real time while watching it, you start editing footage from other better films.
I will say this, Griff, you haven't seen Argylle, right?
No, I lack the ability to let the cat out of the bag because I do not yet know the secret.
Right. Cat remains in the bag for you.
That having been said, I guess the secret, and everyone's confirmed to me that I guessed it correctly. Go on, David.
You did guess it correctly. I was there when you first debuted your guess.
Thank you.
That movie has many twists. It literally does treat the reveal that they are on a boat as one of its many twists. It's a very annoying
That's
moment.
right.
Where they're like, where are we? What is this? Wait.
Okay,
and they realize it's a boat.
They go from what do you call the undercarriage of a boat? Like they go from below deck. Sorry, Steven Soderbergh.
Good. Impressive.
They go from below deck, and there is a shot where they zoom out, right, to the CGI boat, which is not that different from one of that opening Hunt for Red October shot, right? Where you start with Brosnan and then you see the entire, what's the boat called? Red October.
Red October.
It's Red October.
Red October is the name of the
Amanda,
Good job.
I made the exact same mistake in our Red October episode where I was literally snapping my fingers and going, what's the fucking name?
What's
it called? I'm sort of hunting for a title here. I can't think of what it might be.
I did that like an hour and a half into our episode.
So you guys are recording kind of chronologically for this one?
I mean, it's always guest dependent.
Okay. And this also, you were here in Los Angeles.
But
so
you know what? A couple of the late ones we recorded very early just because of people being in town or whatever. This is being recorded second to last. Third to last?
Third to last.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes. So we're in a late McTiernan mindset largely.
Wow. That's a special place to be.
It's a special.
Have you done any of the bonus material and or rollerball and or?
We've done rollerball and we touched on the legalities surrounding that movie or lack thereof.
Right.
And we are devoting an entire Patreon episode to the crimes of Anthony Pellicano.
Yeah.
Because it was too much context to just tack on to another episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're using Sin Eater, the Hulu documentary.
But you haven't done that yet. But so mentally you're you're like really right in the chronology vibe for Thomas Crown Affair.
Basically, yeah. We've done the Rollerball episode, so we've set up that that's where the problems begin.
Sure.
And then we haven't done the crime episode yet, and we haven't done Basic, which is obviously the total fallout of everything.
Right.
But this is, I think we've been looking forward to this being pinned on our calendar at a later date because it's like one last breath of like positive air in the narrative.
Amen.
What's this podcast, Griffin?
This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who experience massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear and sometimes they bounce baby. I don't think I've ever clocked how much I use my full register of pitch in this intro.
Right, for the intro.
I'm feeling myself like going outside a range. Anyway, some of those directors end up going to federal prison, but not today.
It's really...
At this point in 1999, it's not even a glint in his eye.
No.
This is a miniseries on the films of John McTiernan, legendary action movie director and ex-convict. Today, we're talking about his last great film, right? Although we've yet to watch Basic, which some people defend.
Yeah, but I would say his last sort of out and out, well-received hit. Right?
Yes.
Like,
This is his last triumph. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
In all areas, it's like audiences loved it. Critics loved it. It was a hit.
There is a reason he on spec wrote a sequel to this movie in prison. He wasn't going to sit down and write a Basic sequel in prison.
Is that script available anywhere? I'd love to read it.
John.McTiernan@gmail.com.
I'd love to make it. Do you need a producer, John? I have no experience or money.
It's unfortunately, I believe the one copy is in the prison library.
Okay,
you have to go and check it out.
He tucked it behind a poster of, I don't know, whatever.
We will get to the 25 years of how do you follow up this movie question as MGM has debated how to turn Thomas Crown into a modern franchise or keep it afloat. But yes, this is his last proper triumph. It is fascinating because it is coming out in theaters 10 days after his biggest flop up until that point in time.
That is true. Amanda, did you know that this came out the same year as The 13th Warrior?
I did know that it was the same year. I confess I didn't know that it was 10 days after.
No, Griff. It's 3 weeks.
It's the other way around,
Griff.
I'm sorry.
It's the other way around.
This is beginning of August and 13th Warrior is end of August.
Right.
That's right. And that's why this is posting before 13th Warrior.
So
this is where I get confused.
13th Warrior, they knew they had something bad on their hands and they just stuck it to float on Thomas Crown.
And he had shot it 2 years before Thomas Crown began production.
That sounds right. Certainly he made it before. Yes.
Yeah, that episode we did record 5 years ago.
We did, and we did. David Lowery is on it. Spoiler alert.
Oh wow!
It's next week's app, and he was in town.
But the timeline on these two movies is hard to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it is that fascinating phenomenon where he just knows he has a turkey incoming. He's spent 3 years on a movie that no one can salvage, and that has to some degree been taken away from him. And he successfully pulls off the ultimate heist, which is put a hit in theaters before my last bomb comes out.
Right. And just completely distract.
Distract.
Right.
He's putting 1,000 guys in bowler hats and long jackets in the multiplex to distract from the turkey that is 13th Warrior.
Griffin, introduce our guest, and then I have very boring gossip that I just got. That I want to share with you guys.
This movie or just about our lives?
Nope. About movies.
Oh, great.
It's very boring.
Okay.
Our guest today, I will say, is one of the guests I have been most excited to have on.
You're very kind.
In a very long time. Because big picture, a podcast I would jump in and out of, listen to topical episodes. Last summer, our friend Alex Ross Perry said, you need to listen to Sean's mental breakdown over Fast X, which I did.
We're sitting right here, Griffin. You're at the scene of
chair?
Yes, this is the chair.
The seat of shame.
We should put a plaque on it.
I found it cathartic. Listening to that episode, it felt like I'd found an AA meeting where I could relate to other people with similar stories. And since then, Big Picture's been top of my podcast rotation.
You're very kind.
I've gotten fully Big Pic pilled, but on top of that, I just want to say, card-carrying, for-life Dob Mob member.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Amanda Dobbins is here for the first time, not the last.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Wow.
have been waiting my whole life to podcast about the Thomas Crown Affair.
This is the thing.
Parentheses 1999.
Amanda, the first conversation we ever had,
which was
I believe, was about this movie. 8 years ago,
was about this movie. I really do feel I'm glad that this is the first time I'm on Blank Check, because it's like I've been training. This is what it's all been building towards, is figuring out what the fuck happened with the painting fitting into the briefcase.
Yes.
And is there a spanner?
Yes.
And,
yes.
you know,
yes.
like, we know, but, you know, yes. I'm ready to break it down.
No, like 6 or 7 months ago, I say to David, like, getting Amanda on is top priority. We need to find a place for Amanda. And I would sometimes say, like, what do we have coming up? What can we pitch to Amanda? And he would go, I don't think those are the right options. And when we finally settled on, fuck it, it's time to do McTiernan, he looked at me and he went, you know what this means?
Yeah.
We can get Amanda on. Like, Thomas Crown is the easiest booking of all time. That's the ask. I'm glad we saved it.
We just texted you McTiernan and you replied Thomas Crown Affair.
Yeah, I knew instantly.
Easy.
I think you said Thomas Crown, let's go.
Yeah, well, it's also...
Yeah.
And I do also... You guys have a very committed and active Reddit community, which is very lovely. But
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Is that... They seem nice. Are they not
nice?
They're
nice enough. They're fine.
Okay. Anyway.
We just don't want to encourage them necessarily.
That's true.
But it's fine.
I also don't want them to think that I'm like actually spending a lot of time on their Reddit, you know, but
perfect. Okay, great.
And that's not even in a derogatory sort of way. That's just not how I'm Amanda Dobbins. I'm spending my time.
Sure.
But I think I mentioned that I would be coming on Blank Check like 6 months ago.
Yes. At
like minute 93 of the big picture, which is already embarrassing that we're getting to minute 93.
Our show gets to fucking minute 1000. You have nothing to apologize for.
And they sleuthed it out like that. You hadn't even announced McTiernan, which was, I felt really seen. And so, and I think maybe that's why I feel warmly towards the community, you know, because they knew immediately.
The sound we all made when you invoked them, the reason why is a recent champagne problem we have been butting up against is we reach out to someone we would love to have on the show and offer them a movie we know they like. Mm-hmm. And their response is, I don't think I'm enough of an expert. I'm worried about the Reddit getting angry at me.
Ignore them.
We've had hyper-qualified people say, bar too high with Reddit response.
Wow. I would say to those people, they got to keep living their lives.
I would say the same thing.
That's what I have to say.
I would say the same thing, but you are, I don't think anyone's questioning your bona fides for this episode.
I do feel I'm the subject matter expert.
Yes.
On this film and maybe anything having to do with Sofia Coppola outside of her films. I'm pretty good on those films. But I'm the leading expert on Sofia Coppola, the person.
Sure.
And the Thomas Crown Affair, parentheses, 1999.
I would say, too, that, like, I consider you perhaps leading expert on Thomas Crown Affair, parentheses, 1999, but also all these sub-subjects within this film.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're at least on the board of experts.
Thank you. That's great. That's a good place to be. I'm looking to be on more boards in the future. That's just a nice check that you get every once in a while to show up and sit through a PowerPoint presentation. So anybody needs me, I'm available.
Was this like an opening weekend 1999 theaters movie for you? When did you get Tommy pilled?
So certainly that summer. And this is essentially my birthday week, maybe the week after. I'm an August Leo.
You're a Leo.
So I would have been turned.
You're a Leo.
Yeah, I sure am. There's no denying it.
You exude it. Yeah.
So I would have been turning 15 years old.
Okay.
So the real question there is, could I get to the mall opening weekend? Mm-hmm. Or like, when was I being dropped off?
It's also, it's rated R. It's a rated R movie.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
So were you sneaking in?
You know what? It earns it in a nice way.
Yes.
I'm maybe I watched it at home then.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, because
I'm seeing here the MPA rated it R for boobs and art theft.
Yeah.
So that's on the poster there.
I look forward to talking about Rene Russo's absolutely spectacular breasts.
I'm glad that you are the one.
Which are a part of the artwork of this film. And
of course.
The story goes that this was the first time that she really did that level of nudity. And it's because she was in her mid-40s and she's like, I want it on record. I don't know whether that's actually true. I haven't spoken with Rene Russo to confirm it, but I am glad that it's on the record, and she should be as well.
I remember when this movie came out, people being surprised that she did nudity and then also being like, fucking good on her. I get it.
It's,
you know?
Griffin, it was more than that. It was like A1 New York Times, like lower section maybe.
It was like
but
a
it was
huge
like
story.
A woman in her 40s is taking her clothes off in a film, and it's getting a wide release. This isn't some sort of museum exhibit for strange people.
And also, like, Siskel and Ebert are giving the nudity specifically 2 thumbs up.
I mean,
like, all you have to think about.
I mean, the 90s, the biggest thing that happened nudity-wise in the 90s was Sipowitz's butt on NYPD.
Agreed.
Do you remember this? Like, do you remember where you were?
Yes.
And I wasn't old enough to watch NYPD Blue, but it's just like when they showed Dennis Franz's bare ass on network TV, it was like the entire world stopped. And then number 2 was Rene Russo over the age of 40.
Yes.
Taking her top off multiple times. By the way, I mean, that's the other thing. She's like doing the sex scene, but she's also at the beach.
Yes.
She's got that incredible mesh dress at the gala.
The mesh look. Oh my God! Look, I've already set aside half an hour for obviously talking about weary cuck Dennis Leary. There's half an hour right for Rene Russo's rack. That's not a problem.
Yeah. And by the way, Amanda, thank you for being the one to pin that on the corkboard.
I understand that you guys couldn't totally.
We want to talk about it. You don't want to
go there,
but you have to introduce the subject.
But I do feel that they were purposefully and willfully included as a special effect in the Thomas Crown affair. You know, like she was a part of it. It's not exploitative. And if that's wrong, then I apologize to Rene Russo, and I just want her to know that she looks great, but I'm sorry it was uncomfortable. But it seems like she was in on it.
I think she was in on it, absolutely. And from what I remember of the press at the time, it was very much like her being like, I'm going for it, baby. My goss is that Wicked is going to be the A1 trailer at the Super Bowl. Universal has booked the #1 spot in the Super Bowl. First trailer out of the Super Bowl is Wicked.
Okay, so like kickoff.
Yes.
Taylor Swift.
Get ready.
Like photo, close up, and then cut to Ariana Grande doing whatever.
Amanda, I'm glad you're here for this one because this is the exact angle of this I want to analyze. Do you think there is any universe in which Universal would be buying ad time for Wicked during the Super Bowl were Taylor Swift now not inextricably connected to the NFL? Do you think they would even attempt to market that movie during that broadcast?
Well, in that universe, did Barbie still make as much money as it did last year? Because I do think that the Super Bowl is a major marketing event.
It is.
And Barbie has taught people if you market things like aggressively
to
women, then maybe they'll spend $1 billion. You guys like Wicked? The musical? You seen it?
Yeah, of course. I think it's a hugely flawed musical, but I think its place in the culture at this point is quite secure.
I've never seen it. So it's about the Wicked Witch of the West and the Good Witch.
Yes.
Oh, you don't know anything about Wicked. Okay,
no.
all right.
I know.
All right,
okay,
all right.
so I know Adina Menzel. What did Adele Dazeem?
Adele Dazeem. Kristen Chenoweth.
All right, so this is the idea. Like, you know how there's the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz?
And she's wicked. It's right there in her name.
Right. And then there's the Good Witch in the Bubble, right? Glinda, who comes down and is in the bubble. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
What do you think their high school experience was like?
Oh my God. So they're in high school? Is it like it's like the witches' high school?
They're in like magic school. Yeah.
It's very similar to the flashback in Austin Powers and Goldmember, where you realize that Austin and Dr. Evil went to spy boarding school together.
Okay.
And they used to be friends, but a rivalry was formed there that extended into their adult careers.
I was going to take us down a whole spy school thing.
Please.
I don't know if anyone is looking for a gift for like 5 to 10-year-olds.
Constantly.
But I sent my godson and his sister this subscription service where they get stuff in the mail every week telling them that they've been enrolled in a spy school and they get and they need help with a case. And so new clues and everything show up in the mail every week. And they really think they're in a spy school. Like they actually do. So I should look up the name. It's really great. And that sounds fun. And I would watch a musical based on that.
So you're pitching your own musical, which is Spy School by Mail, the musical.
But that is just like a good gift if you're looking for something for a small child.
Yeah, or also maybe for Ben, because it does sound like the kind of gift Ben would appreciate.
But so the thing is that the Wicked Witch is
misunderstood.
Yeah, and is not really wicked, but she's good.
Yes, she's
like,
prejudiced because of her green skin.
Okay.
The world treats her poorly.
Okay.
Yeah, she has a sister who's going to get crushed by a house.
In the Wicked universe, does the Wizard of Oz exist in the Wicked?
He sure does.
Well, so then is the moral of the story that you become a bad person?
No, I don't want to spoil Wicked for you, but the moral is perhaps the story as you perceived it is not actually quite what was going on.
Yeah, maybe the Wicked Witch wasn't so bad.
Okay.
Maybe it was a matter of point of view.
Okay.
You watch it thinking, oh no, this is going to be a story about watching someone I like become irredeemably evil.
Right.
Because she is the compelling character. This is the other thing about Wicked.
I mean, I guess you don't know very much about her in Wizard of Oz.
Exactly.
Except for the house.
So you're like, is this going to be an Anakin Skywalker fall from Grace story?
Then does that make you watch the Wizard of Oz being like, wow, that was really tough. And we did her wrong
dirty.
By her.
We did her dirty.
Look, I've also read the books, and the books are darker, and they're all about how, like, Oz seems to have a sort of tiered system with the animals at the bottom and the munchkins at the bottom and all this. And, like, the musical kind of softens that, but it's about that.
You also get, like, Tin Man backstory and some of the other shit that happens in Wicked. But the other thing I'll say about Wicked is Frozen pretty liberally took a lot of the things that worked in Wicked.
Oh.
And in some ways refined them.
Okay.
But the dynamic between the two of them, between Glinda and Elphaba.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Even though they're not sisters in that, is very much something they coasted off of in Frozen, where you're like, well, instead of having a hero and a villain,
okay,
what if it's sort of misunderstood?
Got it.
And there's a kind of like bond of feminine power that's trying to redeem the person and all of that. So like Frozen's always already eaten a little bit of Wicked's lunch. And when David calls out the flaws that exist in the musical, they are flaws that I imagine would only be enlarged if you were to say, split Wicked into two films. The dumbest decision in the history of movies.
But here's what I do know is the Defying Gravity is like the end of the first act.
Yeah,
so that'll be like the finale of part one, right?
Here's the thing. Splitting the movie into two films is a great bit of news for Wicked Part 1.
Yes.
It's truly like when you don't do the dishes and you're like, that's tomorrow, David's problem.
I had an incredible meal.
Right. Wicked Part 1 is going to be great. It's going to be about witches at high school. It's going to have songs that ends on fucking Defying Gravity. People are going to walk out shooting guns in the air. Then Wicked Part 2 is probably going to be a tougher
They could
bit of
subtitle
sledding.
Wicked Part 2, Break Out the Scrub Daddy.
Okay. Oh, God.
Because it's fucking, these stains, they're sticking to the plate. They're three-dimensional.
Okay.
I mean, we'll see. Anyway, I thought you might be more excited for Wicked, Amanda, but now have learned you don't really care about Wicked, which is only fair.
I just don't know about it. You know, I missed that.
Right. Yeah.
I missed that train. But I know many other people think it's pretty great. So that's exciting for them.
It's exciting for them.
You know, it's not like I played with Barbies. And I really liked Barbie. But Greta Gerwig isn't directing Wicked as far as I know.
No, John Chu is.
Yeah.
Who I enjoy. I enjoy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But I'm not like, oh, he's gonna have a wild take. I'm like, oh, he'll make like a competent movie, probably, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thomas Crown Affair.
David, did you see this in theaters?
No, I did not. This film was rated 15 in Britain for, like I said, boobs and art crime.
Yeah.
So I think I was too young. I definitely remember I watched it with my mother on VHS when it came out on home video, and we had a great time.
I think that is the exact same thing that happened with me.
It wasn't awkward sitting next to your mom with all the boobs. Well, I guess you were, a more European sensibility.
Look, me and my mom watched Sex and the City together. Like, I don't know. This is probably what made me the man I am. Like, I'm less encumbered by shame or something. But
my formative watching R-rated movies with my parents, and why I think I didn't see this in theaters is because I went to see Jerry Maguire with my mother, and the never stop fucking me scene at the beginning, that was pretty tough.
I think we have invoked a lot on this podcast, not just in the Jerry Maguire episode, but something where if you see that at the right age, and especially you watch it adjacent to a parent,
right,
it is burned into your head for a while of, I guess this is what sex is.
Yes. And also I want to separate this from from my parents, respectfully.
When you're a kid, you're like, what does it even matter in that movie? You could lift that right out. When you're an adult, you watch it, you're like, I understand everything about Kelly Preston's character right away. Like,
both characters fall apart if you don't include that scene.
The Thomas Crown Affair. Griff, did you see it in theaters? No, you were pretty young, right? You're like,
I almost definitely, only a couple years younger than you. I almost definitely watched this on VHS with my mom, which I do think my mom was very protective about what I watched, but there would be exceptions for things that she respected.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And she's a diehard fan of the original Thomas Crown. I went to see it with her at the Metrograph like 2 months ago.
Oh, that's nice.
When she was visiting New York.
Sure.
The Jewison. Which,
did you take a little nap? Did you take a little sleepy nap when you watched that movie?
Pin this on the corkboard. David hates the Jewison. He wants to talk greasy like fucking 5 days after Jewison died.
With all respect to the great Norman Jewison, it is so boring. Like, it's so slow. I understand that action movies were paced very differently, and this is my, internet riddled ADHD brain or whatever. There's obviously craft in it, like Faye Dunaway for life. Also, though, Faye Dunaway happens to be in this film, so I agree, it's really boring. It's like really boring and a lot of split screen.
I think this movie is better than the original in almost every regard. I think overall it's unquestionably a better film and a more functional film. I think that is basically a craft over all else movie that barely hangs together as a story. But
craft and hot actors,
it's
everyone looking great.
This is my thing. The reason I'm surprised you are always so quick to call out how boring it is, which is a thing I've heard you do so many times over our 10 plus years of friendship, is I do think in a certain way that is an early Just Vibes movie that you usually go to the mat for.
The vibes are totally fine. I think I was hurt by watching it as a teenager.
Sure.
Probably after this one.
Yeah.
And thinking it had this reputation as like one of the, steamiest sex Hollywood thrillers, like, oh my God, like the tension crackles, like the chess scene. It's you'll goosebumps, like, and you watch it and it feels a little tepid, which is partly just
I completely agree. But what's funny? If you read the contemporaneous reviews of Thomas Crown Affair 1999, my preferred version, it is a lot of critics who are older than us being like, Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo can't come close to the chemistry of like McQueen and Dunaway. And I'm like, are you serious? Do you remember the Fiji water bottle? Like what? I guess we just have different definitions of chemistry.
I think that was also just
a protectiveness, right?
Exactly.
Of like any remake.
Well, how did your mom feel about the remake?
She loved it.
My
mom did. Oh, wait, what about Griffin's mom? Sorry.
Mom's loved it. No, I remember the arc of it because early 99 Spy Who Shagged Me came out, right?
Yeah.
I'm fucking fanatical about that movie.
Okay.
It has the scene with Ivana Humpalot, one of the great American films. Has the scene with Ivana Humpalot where they parody the Thomas Crown chess scene. And my mom says to me, that's from Thomas Crown. Like, anytime a movie I liked featured a reference to anything in pop culture from before 1970, she would use that as a teaching moment.
Great.
Like when I saw Toy Story and she was like,
parenting.
I'm bringing you to Picasso exhibit.
Oh, that's
because now Mr. Potato Head has planted Picasso in your head as a name. So she similarly was
taking notes here. That's really good parenting.
Mom, this was an area in which my mom did a very good job. And I will not speak about other areas.
I've started doing that in reverse. Last night, my son will be 2 on Friday, and he loves planes. So last night I just showed him Top Gun Maverick.
Hell yeah.
Which he fucking loved, because you know what it is? It's just planes going really fast, and also motorcycles, a thing he loves.
Cool guys.
And he just kept going fast, whoosh, fast. Just was absolutely shocked and awed and delighted. Anyway.
So my kid is basically a full year older than your kid. Where now I have that.
Okay, well, humble brag.
Right.
Yeah,
not bragging.
It's a humble brag.
I'm humble bragging that she's going to be 3. I have not shown her Top Gun Maverick yet. Griff, actually, I will tell you today. Yes. My kid threw up yesterday, so she was home today.
Well, that's a real humble brag.
Yeah, huge humble brag for her because she's totally fine today. She demanded Lightyear because she loves Buzz.
Okay,
and she saw it on the Disney Plus. 2 minutes in, she was like, "Get this shit off the screen."
Yeah.
What is this? They're like talking to each other. Like, this is so boring. Like,
my friend Derek Simon, one of my oldest friends who I've invoked a lot on this podcast, he has a daughter a little bit older who loves Buzz Lightyear, goes to sleep with a Buzz doll, like carries it around all the time, brought her to Lightyear as her first movie ever in theaters. And 15 minutes in, she's like, I think I'm good. And like full pomp and circumstance. Look, you get a popcorn bucket.
That does
here in your room.
I went alone to a press screening of Lightyear, as one does.
Yeah.
And
you got put on a watch list for that. Yep.
But it was at least like one of the ones where they brought you could bring children, and so other people did bring children. I think Lightyear predates my son. Anyway, and so I sat next to a small kid who was just like confused and or terrified the whole time. And I just completely ruined the movie for me on his behalf. I was like, well, this little child hates this. How can I like it?
Yeah, no, but I think that child was smart.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. That child was Richard Brody. I not to humble brag, but I was loosely dating someone at the time Lightyear came out, and I went to go see a matinee by myself in the afternoon, and she found the ticket stub in my pants pocket and broke up with me very shortly after. And I'm not saying the two things are connected, but her reaction was as if she had found evidence of me with another woman.
That's what I was going to ask. Was it because she didn't go with you, or
no? She was like, "You went to see Lightyear today,
okay, right?"
And I was like, yeah. And she was like, who did you go with? And I was like, no one. I thought she was accusing me of going out with someone else.
Right.
When she realized I went to Lightyear by myself in the afternoon, she got kind of freaked out.
Okay. All right.
It was a bit of a red flag for her. Arc of my mom with this movie, as I remember it, is Spy Who Shagged Me, she calls out, that's from the original Thomas Crown Affair. I go, what's the Thomas Crown Affair? I don't remember if she shows it the original to me at that point. If she did, I probably had a good night's sleep. Then this movie comes out and she's staunchly against it. Ugh, why can't they leave the classics alone? Everything needs to be updated. And I do think when it came out, there was that attitude. And this movie was something of a sleeper hit because the word of mouth was so good of people being like, fuck, this thing actually rules.
Really? Yeah.
The reviews were good, and even still people were a little cagey, and it grew. So then I think we rented it whenever it came out on VHS, and she kind of had to begrudgingly be like, it's good. I think she still maintains the originals better.
Sure.
That's her right.
But then this time I saw it with her recently, like 2 months ago, she was like, it really doesn't make any sense. Like that movie barely has a plot. And I was like, yeah. And we were in alignment of like, that thing is like some incredible craft. The split screen shit was basically unseen at that point in time.
Sure, yeah.
But absolutely feels like a post-production salvage job, like a Suicide Squad-esque. How do we make this movie so weird that people don't notice that we actually didn't make a functional movie?
Exactly, yeah.
And then the movie star, like Heat, is off the charts.
For sure.
Yes. But the core concept of it is so good that when you watch it, you're like, yeah, this is begging for someone to make a functional version of this story setup.
I agree, but I also think that the changes that McTiernan, by all accounts, makes to it, like, improve it. The
Absolutely.
fact that they are two, I'm going to be honest, pretty ingenious art heists. Like, they are both very clever, like, well-executed capers that you also can follow in real time. You don't need the Soderbergh, like, after the fact and spin back, here's what really happened.
No, very direct.
I don't want anyone to have the impression that I'm aligning Steven Soderbergh, my favorite person on earth.
Sure.
And also, I love Ocean's 11. But it's just like, they're very smart. Because it's art, the stakes are, I guess, lower. But they don't feel, it's fun. You don't have to worry about it. As David's favorite, Dennis Leary, says at the end, it's just like fancy swirls of paint that only matter to like some very silly people. So the stakes can just be, is he going to get away with it? Are they going to like figure their shit out? Are they going to have sex?
This is why it's frustrating that McTiernan lost it to some degree, or at least has never been able to fully get it back, or prove, give himself the opportunity to get it back, is that same fucking thing with Die Hard. Die Hard is meant to be terrorists when he reads the script. And he's like, they gotta be robbers.
Yeah,
if they're terrorists, the movie is not fun.
Right.
No one wants to see terrorists get beaten, because you need to beat them like violently, and it reminds them of the outside world.
I mean, nobody wants terrorists at Christmas either.
Correct.
Right.
And I don't know if you know this, but Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
But he was like, it's more fun if they are robbers pretending to be terrorists. The audience will be on board.
Yeah.
This movie has to be joyful, and he's totally right. And you watch the original Thomas Crown Affair, and the whole notion of this man who has everything, who is so bored, he starts committing crimes for sport, basically to give himself a thrill.
Right.
Plays very differently in the original when it's armed bank robbery and there are like casualties.
Right. It's maybe like a more complex character and like a more,
Yes.
That's a great novel.
Yes.
This is a great 90s action movie. Like,
Yes.
it's way, way more fun.
And as you were saying, not only does he not need to do the roll back and explain to you how the heist was done, where you just watch it in real time, he also doesn't give you the watch them trying to work out the heist.
Right.
Think of, like, how many other heist movies are there where the only thing you ever see is the heist itself and it's all legible to you?
Spreading blueprints around. Yeah.
But I like that.
I love that.
I mean, I love
like
a
it
get
too.
the gang
I like it
together. I love a here's what our plan's going to be. But that's a good observation that you just watch it happen in real time.
I never begrudge either of the preface or the post-game analysis happening in a heist movie, but it is a little impressive just as a skill piece that McTiernan makes two heists that work where every time an element is introduced in real time, you go, oh, I get what they're doing.
And it's like, it's deft too. It's just like, when you rewatch it for the 1,000th time, as I did, it's like, oh, there is one line about, do you want me to take your briefcase to the office? Oh, Mr. Cron, you forgot your briefcase. And it's not heavy-handed enough that you would be like, why are they so fixated on his briefcase?
Yes.
But it's like an essential plot point that the first time you see it, you're like, oh, the briefcases.
It's the exact thing McTiernan was a master at, which is knowing exactly how to draw your focus to certain things, keep them in mind without overplaying the hand in a way that telegraphs, this is important.
I'm going to open the dossier, Griffin. Have you guys heard of the film GoldenEye?
Yes.
Okay, so Pierce Brosnan was the star of that film. It came out in 1995 and it was successful.
Released by the MGM Corporation.
True.
Yes.
And because Pierce now has this power, he founds a company called Irish Dreamtime. I am not kidding. That is the name of his production company. And he starts casting around for a Pierce Brosnan project. John Calley, who is a producer who would have come up. We worked with Kubrick a lot.
Okay.
He is sort of his guy running Irish Dreamtime. And they make a movie called The Nephew. I have never heard of this movie, Griffin. His first effort.
Yes. The run of Irish Dreamtime Productions is really fascinating when you look at it as a whole, because it's sort of all the Pierce blank checks, I'm Bond, I can get movies of a certain size, greenlit on my name movies. The biggest things he's been in outside of Bond and this movie are usually him joining someone else's production versus the Irish Dreamtime Productions, which are like Evelyn and The Matador and Taylor of Panama and like his I Want to Show a Different Side of Myself movies.
Where Amanda, how do you feel about Pierce generally, especially, movie star like this A-lister Pierce versus, Mamma Mia character actor Pierce?
Oh, well, I love character actor Pierce.
We all love that. I feel like everyone's on board with that. Right.
But that also brings to mind to me like the Mrs. Doubtfire, and it was a run by Fruiting, and he's very good in that as well. That was probably my first Pierce experience.
Mine too, I'm sure. Yeah.
I like both of you, I assume, or David, I know you're a big Bond person, but Griffin, I don't know where you are on Bond.
I like Bond okay. We did all the Pierce Bonds on Patreon last year.
Okay.
And then just recently did Mirror Has Two Faces with Streisand.
Oh, wow. Oh, right.
And then these two Pierce episodes in McTiernan, because his first film is also Pierce. So we've been in like a really Piercey run. And I love Pierce unabashedly.
So I love Pierce. He's not my favorite Bond.
Same.
And I think this is the best of his Bond movies. This is like what he should be doing instead of the Bond stuff. And I don't know whether it's just the tone and the setup of this movie fits him a little bit more than like, made up international conspiracy to fund a video game, whatever. But I really like him. This is my favorite of this era. I don't love his Bond stuff as much. And I mean, everything he's done since is delightful. Yeah.
His Bond stuff is very, very up and down, obviously. Yeah. This is the one time I feel like it truly, like Bond era Pierce just completely make sense in another movie.
Right.
Like he's good in Taylor Panama or The Matador, obvious. You know, like he's good in other stuff, but this is the one time the movie star image makes sense.
We've talked about this a lot, that there's the sort of like monkey paw of getting cast as Bond. And what do you do with your movies in between Bond? And that those guys tend to really struggle to like, if you go too far away from the Bond persona, people aren't seeing what they want from you. And if you do something that feels too Bond adjacent, it's like, well, this feels like an also ran.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the major Bond. And someone like Craig, it like really took until Knives Out that it's like, he now has a character that is far enough away from Bond, is now its own franchise. He's going to survive. But you look at the Craig movies in between his Bond entries, and most of them bomb hard. And Pierce, this is like the one that really worked in the middle of his Bond run.
Because it's borrowing what is good about Bond.
But in this way, that's the toughest needle to thread. Like, you know, Connery was making movies while he was Bond, but a lot of the in-between Bond movies are a little forgotten, even the good ones. And this was like, Pierce totally knocked it out of the park.
So he and his other producing partner, Beau St. Clair, great name, rent the Thomas Crown Affair from Blockbuster Video. Heard of it? Because they're sort of casting around.
Do you think that like they know they want to rent Thomas Crown Affair 1968 and they send an assistant to go in to Blockbuster to get it? Or do you think that Pierce and Beau are just like walking the aisles of Blockbuster looking for inspiration and are like, okay, why don't we check this out?
It has to be the latter. Just the two of them.
Do you think that, like,
doing
in
Jack Black in the Holiday
or whatever,
no,
Pierce
Brosnan?
Okay, all right.
No, he lives in like a fortress in Malibu. It's
That's
like
true.
the size
or
of
like,
fucking
or a beautiful
Bahrain.
compound on like in Hawaii, on the North Shore of Kauai.
But I also have to imagine, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but like at that point in time, the two of them are like, okay, we can get some movies made. What do we want to do? MGM UA are behind me as Bond. What do they have in their library that I can like run with? I'll probably be an easier sell to them.
So they watch the Thomas Crown Affair and Griffin. They say, yes, this is Brosnan talking. You know, the suits, the love affair, the chess sequence, of course, all very iconic, but there wasn't enough flesh on the bone of the love affair, I felt. I thought we could explore the romance and find what actually makes this guy tick and fall in love. And it dovetailed well into the persona that was happening with myself and Bond. He's totally right, obviously. Like, good for him.
Well, I think the major change there, too, is that I think the characterization of Thomas Crown himself as a guy is a little more interesting in the original because they are playing off that, like, this guy's maybe close to having a psychotic break.
Right.
Why is he doing something this dangerous? And McQueen's obviously really good. But I don't think that's a strike against this movie that Pierce is a little more elusive as a character, because the real reframing is she is the lead character of this movie.
Yeah. Yes.
In every sense, I would say.
I accept that.
Yeah.
He brings in Leslie Dixon, who wrote Mrs. Doubtfire, the most quotable movie of all time, Ben.
That's true.
Ben once called that Mrs. Doubtfire the most quotable movie of all time.
And we asked him to name his favorite quote.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think besides Run by Fruiting. Okay, what else is there?
There's, of course, hello.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's the quote he pulled out to back up his claim that it's the most quotable movie of all time.
I can't think of a third one, Ben.
Just imagining someone writing like HELLLLLLO. And Kurt Wimmer, who obviously I best know as like the sort of like George Orwell for morons, Equilibrium guy, right?
Yeah.
Like
Ultraviolet, which is one of the worst films I've ever seen in a
not
theater.
a great movie, but they are brought together basically to write. They had like an earlier draft that's basically just a rewrite of the original movie. Brosnan doesn't like that, and instead it's like, Leslie, you're gonna do the romance stuff. Kurt, you're gonna do the action stuff. Leslie comes up with the idea of the therapist, right? Having like him being able to talk about himself a little bit more, and they have a fun script. And who does Pierce Brosnan like? Griffin Newman. Who has he worked with on one of his first ever attempts to break into Hollywood? Johnny McTiernan.
Johnny McTee.
Yeah.
The world's most innocent man at this point in time.
He's currently at first he's working on 13th Warrior. He was supposed to make a Michael Crichton vehicle called Airframe after that. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
But he jumps at the chance to reteam with Brosnan, and
I could understand him not wanting to jump onto another Crichton adaptation coming off of 13th Warrior.
Yes. McTiernan's take, it's a love story for crocodiles. They're both a piece of work. It's a love story about two people who should be together. There's this big obstacle. They've got these razor blades installed at the ends of all of their bones, is how he says. So he really likes the spiky romance. He's all for it. Okay, so
he makes the art thief change, right?
But then he makes he changes this script that they have. It's Banks, and then he changes it to art,
which is huge.
Yeah,
he's basically like take the guns out. But yes, okay, Rene Russo, and this is the casting coup of the movie, right? Because there's no way she's the obvious pick, like, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of like who is the obvious pick in 1999 for this role? Like, Nicole Kidman. I don't know.
Nicole Kidman would have made a lot of sense. Here's what I want to throw out that I just think is so fascinating about Rene Russo and is kind of unique. Do you guys know what her first film credit is?
Major League, baby.
Major League.
Really?
Yeah.
Her first movie is Major League. She was a model. Then she sort of like ages out of modeling, as happens to most models at a weirdly young age, right? Then she's like, I want to learn how to act. She goes to drama school. She takes classes. She does off-beaten theater. She does 6 episodes of a TV show that was prematurely canceled.
Okay.
And then does Major League. Those are her first 2 screen credits. So Major League is her first movie period after only doing a handful of TV. And she is 35 when that movie is filmed.
Awesome.
How many actresses who are conventional A-list leading ladies start their career at 35? A time where this horrible industry is starting to push people out the door. She is someone who arrives as like a grown-up.
Yeah.
It's true.
Right? Her entire movie career is like, this is an adult woman.
Well, and she arrives at a good time where they still made movies about adult women.
Yes.
Just being adult women and not having to go on some sort of like journey of self-discovery to find that they're adult women, and whatever. But I can't think of anyone currently because there's like no 35-year-old or 45-year-old woman just playing a woman.
Who's starting doing that.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's like this era where I feel like her career niche becomes, look, a lot of these other movies, they're going to cast a love interest who's 20 years younger than the man.
Right.
What if you want, just to mix things up, cast someone who can kind of stand toe-to-toe with the guy in like every respect?
When the film is announced, Variety claims that, MGM is looking for a Julia Roberts caliber lead, right? Julia Roberts is 31 at the time. Brosnan is 45. And both McTiernan and Brosnan were basically like, we both wanted someone in her 40s. Like, we were like, what about an age-appropriate romance? And they both loved Rene Russo. But like, I'm trying to, like, I don't think there's no one else listed here. They are really claiming like, this is who we wanted and we went and got her. Like,
yeah.
I guess there wasn't some kind of like casting search or A-level, A-lister who passed or whatever. I mean, like, where would you guys, Rene Russo, she's a big actor at the, Get Shorty, Tim.
I mean, can I literally
Tin Cup.
Can I list them because they're not that many?
Yeah.
So it's Major League, Mr. Destiny, Jim Belushi vehicle. We can disregard that. One Good Cop, Michael Keaton, cop drama, doesn't really make an impact. Free Jack, then Lethal Weapon 3, which is obviously the first thing that really ups her stock. Right? Then In the Line of Fire, I'm not skipping over any movies in this run. You go from Lethal Weapon 3 to In the Line of Fire.
Can I just shout out Free Jack, which is an insane movie, but is also where she meets the writer and director Dan Gilroy, who she is still
married to.
Good call. Put a pin in that. Anyway. Lethal Weapon 3, In the Line of Fire, a cameo in Major League 2, Outbreak, Get Shorty, Tin Cup, Ransom, Buddy, Lethal Weapon 4. That's a strong fucking run.
Yeah.
And those are all big movies that are... Yes.
Like for all of those. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. For someone who has been acting at that point for less than a decade, she gets on the poster almost immediately. Like the public is buying what she's selling, which is odd because it's like very out of trend with the other major actresses of that time.
That's true, but she sort of invents a type of 90s role for herself, you know? Like the Rene Russo is a character who is a grown-up in mostly among dudes.
Yeah.
In like an action tilted movie.
Sure. But with a tinge of comedy, she can banter back and forth.
And it's like, so you need a Rene Russo, but they just don't make Rene Russos anymore, along with making movies that have Rene Russos.
No. Do you know, because I found this out recently.
Oh my God.
What, Ben?
She was Natasha in Rocky and Bullwinkle.
So we're gonna
obviously
talk about it.
Her peak as a movie star comes a year after this.
Damn. That hits for me.
The problem with poor Rene Russo's career, and I love Rene Russo to death, is after this, you're like, God damn, well, Thomas Crown, the world must have been her oyster. And then it's like Rocky and Bullwinkle, Showtime, Big Trouble, Two for the Money, Yours, Mine, and Ours. And then she's out. She doesn't make movies until she pops up as Thor in, not as Thor, as Thor's mom in Thor.
As Frigga, of course. Yeah. Frigga, mother of Thor.
Yeah, absolutely. Frigga.
But yes, no, I mean, she's since done interviews about her ongoing struggle with bipolar disorder and when she stepped away from movies after Yours, Mine, and Ours. That gap between that in 2005 and Thor in 2011, I think, was largely based around that.
Wow, I had no idea.
It was a thing. I was just in digging through her career last night, found this, because she never did a big sort of like People magazine cover, My Struggle.
Right.
She was on the Queen Latifah, the short-lived Queen Latifah daytime talk show.
Okay.
Promoting Nightcrawler. And Latifah asked her some question about like, so what was your life like in those years in between? And she just broke into it and was like, I wasn't planning to talk about this today. And it weirdly didn't get a lot of coverage.
Yeah.
But I think now she's very open about like, I've taken years off from acting because I just am trying to like regulate myself.
Right. Wow.
And find a way to process. But yes, like Thor is a movie where they basically cut her role down to 2 lines of dialogue. She then gets more to do in the second Thor and probably gets the best of the Marvel material in Endgame. But that's most
literally what does she do in Endgame?
She tells Fat Thor to chill out, and he's like, "Thanks, Mom." And she's like, "Great." So the residual checks go to 123 Russo Street, Los Angeles, California.
His emotional arc in Endgame is that he's sad that his mom's died and he can't have a conversation with her. And through the Infinity Stones, he gets to go back in time and have one final day with his mother.
Oh,
and she plays it very well.
Is that why Captain America gets the hammer?
Sure.
No.
Okay. This is good.
The thing about it is
this is really good podcasting.
Yeah.
It's classic Marvel. The whole thing with Marvel is it's not a big part of the movie, and people sometimes might even forget that it's part of the movie. Because Rene Russo is there, it punches above its weight a little bit. Like she's really good and she makes an effort. It's not as it's good. It's a perfectly nice moment, in a big loud movie.
Can we talk about the intern for a minute?
Well, this is what I want to say.
Oh,
so
good.
They bring her back for the Thor movies, right? With very little to do in the first 2. And then it's like fucking Nightcrawler and intern in 2 successive years.
Yeah.
I'm like, is Renee back?
Right.
Has Renee carved out her good Renee in her 60s type?
Right.
And it felt like Nightcrawler, she was on the bubble for Oscar nomination. Intern, she fucking rocks and rules in. And it's one of the great movies of the 2010s.
Are you full Intern?
I love Intern.
Wow.
It is my favorite Nancy movie.
That's a little much.
I also agree that that's a little much. I love Intern as, the answer to Baby Boom, however many years later.
Yes. Great,
it's a fascinating text.
Yes.
It's just got one problem.
The other interns?
No, they're fine. You know who I don't like in the Intern, Griffin.
I'd say it's a twofold problem, and both of those problems are workaholics.
Oh, okay.
In different areas of the film.
Oh, is it the husband?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he sucks. And she stays with him?
Yes.
Yeah.
But she keeps the company too, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so she has no
maybe
life.
Scales back, right? Yeah.
But if she dumps him at the end of that movie, the intern probably wins Best Picture.
Does she get, because like whatever happened with Emily Weiss, do you guys know who Emily Weiss is? I realize.
No.
Do you know about
Yes.
Glossier? Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Which is sort of the analog of what that movie is riffing on.
Yeah. So, well, I think the intern is actually supposed to be like Net-a-Porter. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
That's it. And I mean, I don't know. I just want to make sure everyone has the references. So that's an online shopping platform. But that like seems to be what they're mimicking.
Yes.
Because I think Glossier maybe exists around then, but it's the same era that it's starting.
Sure.
But eventually Emily Weiss got interned, where she was the founder, and then she like brought on a quote unquote CEO
Sure.
to like turn around the business because things were too much. But now that's what's happened in real life. So I can never remember how the intern actually ends, whether she keeps the company or not.
She wins.
She keeps it.
She keeps everything at the end of the movie.
Okay.
But she should have dumped the goon.
Right.
But she does Tai Chi, so you know that she's somehow like
Sure,
calmed
right.
down.
She's
Prospect
censored.
Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the end
I
of it, she's
lived
censored.
like 3 streets away from where they filmed her home for the intern. And I really had a lot of problems getting to my own much less nice house for several months.
Because of Nancy? Sure.
Because of Nancy. Because
Wow.
you know what? Nancy like gets the whole neighborhood
She
shut
does.
down, right? You know, there are trailers and God bless her, she deserves every single trailer. But that's what I remember about the intern. I liked it.
I
a
love
lot.
it. No, there's like 20% of it I genuinely hate,
Yeah.
which is all the silly boy stuff, basically. But,
Yeah, he sucks. She absolutely
Sucks.
should not be with him.
but like the 80% of that movie I
and
love.
the kitchen is a little too Instagrammy.
I would agree with that.
But it's like, it's accurate. It's reflecting.
Yeah, she would have an Instagrammy
The
kitchen,
production
right.
design
Yes.
is like correct and is a character, but you know, I prefer the original It's Complicated kitchen for my own life.
Well, that's peak kitchen, but it's a kind of thing
Except
where
she's renovating it.
sure. Well, that's why Nancy was brilliant and It's Complicated. She gets to show you the best kitchen, but if you have any criticisms of it,
Right, yeah.
she's telling you, well, it's actually not finished.
Yeah.
So don't judge it as a fixed object. She's never going to top that again. She's never going to get a better kitchen on screen because she's created a shadow that will loom over the rest of her career.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
I think in the kitchen area. But intern, post that, Russo does Just Getting Started, the Ron Shelton, Tommy Lee Jones, Morgan Freeman retirement home comedy, Velvet Buzzsaw.
That stuff. Also, in intern, she is like the very beautiful masseuse who winds up with
Robert
De Niro.
Yes.
So like she really gets age like category bumped very quickly in a way that I feel is unfair.
Well, what's interesting is like in the 90s, she's leading woman to other men in their 40s.
Right.
And that's what's so refreshing. When she comes back in the 2010s, she is in her 60s playing against 80-year-olds.
No. De Niro is 10 years older than her. It's not like the most insane thing in the world. But yeah,
right.
you know.
But she's aging differently.
Well, Robert De Niro is a handsome man, but yeah, sure.
Were you guys De Niro or Pacino on that viral meme thing?
Look, the whole point of that viral meme is that it's hard to choose. I'm De Niro. I'm probably
Pacino.
It's Midnight Run. It's Midnight Run. But like, it's also like, you have the thing of like, who do I want picking me up in Heat, right? Do I want like, psycho Neil McCauley?
Right.
Do I want screamy Vincent Hanna? I'm like, I think I want Neil McCauley. Right. Like, I think it's De Niro, but like, that doesn't mean Pacino isn't hot. Like, of course Pacino's hot.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm Pacino as well. I also felt like the De Niro photo chosen was extremely handsome, but unrepresentative. Like, how many times has he smiled in his life?
It was unfair.
Like that and 3 other times. You know, and he does look really adorable when he does, but that's not what you're getting.
That's not the standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to close the loop on the Russo career thing. She has that movie. She has Velvet Buzzsaw, which is like, great. Her and Gilroy again. Doesn't work. And then it's Avengers Endgame. She has not made a movie in 5 years. But here's another thing I found out in my digging. Are you aware that Rene Russo and Dan Gilroy have a daughter named Rose Gilroy who looks exactly like Rene Russo and is a blacklist screenwriter whose spec script is now being made by Apple for $200 million called Project Artemis, which I believe is a Scarlett Johansson, Channing Tatum astronaut rom-com.
Oh, that movie
is written by
their daughter?
Yes.
Wow.
Doesn't that rule?
Good for them.
Yeah, I hope it's good.
Me too.
She's very pretty. I just looked her up.
She looks like Rene Russo.
She does.
She does. So Rene Russo, McTiernan loves her. He wanted a tough cookie, is what he says. And but they wanted to dress her up in this way that you could, you can still think like, but she could fall in love. She can go toe to toe with anybody in this movie, but she's going to have to become vulnerable. And he thinks Rene Russo embodies both very well.
Well, that's like the cornerstone of, it's what gives the original Thomas Crown Affair juice, and what this movie is trying to centralize more is these two people in this cat and mouse game who genuinely want to be in love with each other and can't decide if they're being stupid by assuming the other person genuinely feels the same way.
They mostly want to.
Yes.
But they want to deep down.
Right.
But they also refuse to acknowledge that.
Yes.
And spend a lot of time and basically have constructed their entire lives to avoid the knowledge of that.
The sort of Michael Mann-y, I live my set by a very particular set of rules. I don't break them for anyone. And not only are you threatening to make me break my own rules, but you're the exact person who could fuck me the most if you were to turn on me. And I'll feel like a fool if I figure out you were playing me the whole time.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. It's good shit. It's just a compelling backbone for a movie.
All right, let's talk about the movie. So, opening of this movie is just the most joyful, fun shit in the world, in my opinion. The Trojan horse heist, every stage of it.
Delightful.
It's just great.
And also, opening credits where the letters are swapping.
Oh, yeah.
But
and the Bill Conti score comes in immediately. And that anytime it's piano based.
Yes.
It's A+ stuff.
But it's also sort of like tipping its hand to what the movie's going to be doing, where the letters that are swapping are always the same letters in two positions.
It's really good.
Conti freaks it, in my opinion.
I mean, he does. Like,
it's a lot.
There's always music, and like that's why I said the piano part's really good. For example, during that heist, anytime that you're with heist crew number one, and the fake heist crew. And for example, they're sawing out of the Trojan horse, or they're trying to figure out how to cut the AC and evade the security lamps or security cameras. There is like that basically porn soundtrack, like and that is silly. I was thinking a lot about like if we just recut this movie now without that part of the soundtrack, and maybe like without 20% of like the insert shots of making keys. Like, this might, like, be a masterpiece.
I'm going to push back on the keys.
McTiernan definitely wants some sparks to fly. Yeah.
And just, like, cut back 20%. You can't cut all of them because I want to see them sawing out of the Trojan horse.
No, I'm with you.
And I want to see the scuba masks that they're using so that they can breathe inside the Trojan horse until they get there.
I'm with you 100% on the score. And what I find a little frustrating about it is like 75% of it unreservedly owns, right?
Yeah.
And then there's just like extra toppings on the pizza where it's not even like he's making bad choices. It's like you could literally go into the file and pull a couple layers out.
Right.
And it would sound great.
Yes.
He's just going a little too hard at times, which is usually when he kicks in that like Red Shoes Diaries vibe.
Right. And it also, like, the transitions are so fast, It just goes, like, from one back to the other. Like, silence is not really a part of this film at all, which for the most part is good. It's, like, propulsive. The Trojan horse thing, I really love it because it is, like, a little bit clever, but also, like, really obvious enough for everyone to get, and they even remark upon it enough in the movie that if you don't immediately get the Trojan horse reference, it's sort of like it very briefly explained to you. It's like accessible.
Well,
it's not highbrow. It's like middle brow trying to explain highbrow.
I agree. I think that feel this way about the Bill Conti score too, where it's like, we are here to have fun, guys.
Yeah.
Like there are stakes. Absolutely. But like, everyone relax. No one's gonna die in the Thomas Crown Affair. Like,
but also like cornerstone in McTiernan's style is I will never do something flashy at the expense of the audience understanding.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm here to communicate this story in a way that gets everyone on board. The other thing is, it's good characterization. Because part of the thing with this guy is that he's bored, right? Like McQueen Thomas Crown is like kind of manic and losing it. This guy's trying to wake himself up again. So all of this is like sport for his own amusement. And part of what I think he enjoys is doing it so overtly right in everyone's face. To be as obvious about it as he can.
Right.
And still get away with it.
I mean, I think that's true. I do also think that McTiernan point, like, it's fun and it's for the broadest possible audience. Like, he's stealing a Monet painting, you know?
Right.
And like, when they do run the check to be like, who has been bidding on Monets? And it's like, well, like maybe half the world. But it's like the artist that everyone has heard of. There's that very charming scene.
The tour guide.
Yeah, the tour guide and the school children, and it's worth $100 million, which is just like great exposition, but also like not talking down to anyone.
Yeah,
it's very well calibrated.
Yes,
I want to go to the Met so much that the security guards are like, "Hey, David, here to look at your haystacks, right? Take a seat."
I do have some questions about this Thomas Crown's just like general schedule and time management. And we're like meant to believe he's one of the great Wall Street raiders.
A financial geek.
Of the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
And like he's so busy that he has to have his like, you know, made to measure suits done while guys are like yelling at him about stocks.
Yes.
Or like whatever it is, or acquisitions or whatever they're doing. I guess they're M&A. But he also has time to like go to up and he works downtown, which is very clear by the view in his office.
Yep.
But he has time to be at the museum like multiple times a day. He takes Rene Russo on a date at like 4 p.m. When Leary gets the warrant and they show up at his house, it's like definitely midday on a Tuesday, and he and his lawyer are like wearing aprons, like cooking a meal in broad daylight. I'm just like, what kind of Wall Street raider are you?
I'll go beyond that. I'll say, in fact, I think over the course of this movie, you basically see Thomas Crown take Rene Russo out on a date at every possible time of day someone could take someone out on a date. He's making it very clear there is no hour that is off limits for me.
It's just, and plus he has to be dating the other woman, or like not dating, as the case may be. But, you know, it's just like a lot of time spent out of the office. And that is not the impression that I got about how things worked in the 80s and 90s on Wall Street.
To defend the movie, I think it's like he's gotten so on autopilot buying companies or whatever the hell it is he does.
Sure. Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, I can do this in my sleep. Yeah, I just screwed you out of $10 million. I'll see you later. Like, that's why he's like, should I just fucking steal a Monet and then put it back? Just, you know, just to get a flutter, just to feel something.
Flutter.
It's fair. It's fair. It's just, this is what happens when you watch it 45,000 times.
Yes.
It's like, why is Wallace, his lawyer, also helping him cook a midday meal on a Tuesday? You know?
I mean, my read as well is like the McQueen character, it almost feels like he is trying to tank his career and he can't.
Yeah.
Like he's Tracy Jordan and he's like, I want people to hate me. I want to bomb out, and nothing I do ends up sabotaging my industry. Right? That he almost kind of lucked into all of it to a certain extent. Versus this guy, I read it as like, he was really hungry 20 years ago. He got to the top of the mountain and found that he doesn't really enjoy it. And now he's just near like catatonic depression, bored.
Right.
Trying to do anything to raise his pulse a little bit. Where he likes this game of just like, what if I blow off everything? What if I like invite my lawyer over and we make dinner? Like, I don't know.
No, it's true. It's also like the therapy scenes. Can we talk about the therapy scenes for a minute?
Of course, Faye Dunaway is his therapist.
Which is just a great homage and a great bit of casting. But it's like, in some ways, she's a great therapist because she gets right to the point. And and they use her as a device to be like, this is what's going on with this guy. But like, that's not how therapy works. You're supposed to make the revelation yourself. And so like, he is basically just in therapy with her because she can keep up with him conversation wise. And so he's the type of guy who goes to therapy just to have someone to talk to him at his level.
And he likes being yelled at by Faye Dunaway, which
I think that's a huge part of it.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. If my therapist laughed and clapped that much at things I said, I would maybe see a different therapist.
But he likes it.
He loves it.
Yeah.
He loves
Yes.
it. But she also will be like, don't you fall in love, Mr. Crown. Or whatever. She will call him out.
The early scene of him selling off the part of his company or whatever it is, right? With the guys lighting the cigars. In the original film, that's him just being like, I'm so fucking bored. I want to just get rid of all of this.
Right.
Whereas in this movie, they're trying to make this triumphant, like, we fucking beat you. Whoever thought Thomas Crown would need to sell anything for money? We have the cigars ready to go. And they try to do this big triumphant, like, we fucking owned your ass thing. And he's so unresponsive that it's not even fun to them.
Right.
They want to feel like they got one over on him. And this guy just like doesn't give a shit anymore.
No, he doesn't really care. So he swipes a Monet. How does he do it? He stages an entire other burglary with a bunch of Romanians
heist
in a Trojan horse that cut the AC. And they
bring a helicopter to land on the roof of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which isn't allowed.
You basically
which is a no-no.
They use like 3 different types of like Inspector Gadget briefcases that seem like they would come from the Spy School of the Month Club.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's a distraction. And
it's a distraction, and then he very sexily rips the Monet off the wall, puts it in a briefcase.
Oh, okay. All right.
And let's talk about it. Folds it in half.
And folds up the briefcase. And
he's got this continuous, like Jerome Robbins-esque single shot, unbroken movement, pulling it off, stripping it off the frame.
You're right. It's very elegant.
It's so elegant.
Because he has to roll under the gate.
Yes.
And it's just, it's very fluid movements for sure.
And then he like kicks the underside of the bench. And then he opens the briefcase up, and you're like going like, how the fuck is he going to get it in the briefcase? Then the briefcase, like origami style, unfolds in a dimension you weren't expecting.
Right.
And you're like, now it's all the way open. He can fit it all the way in.
Right.
So what's the cover? Because now the top of the painting is exposed.
Correct.
We're all leaning in. And then the movie just kind of cuts to a different angle. The briefcase is closed.
And he, you even see it, like, it cuts to a different angle, and he's snapped it shut.
Right.
And then he's off on his way with the painting. And this has like kept me up at night for, I guess, 25 years.
There should be a sound effect of wood cracking.
Right.
As he folds it, or
which would happen, yes.
Right. Or the briefcase should be what I think the movie's setting up. It's transformed long ways, but now has a cover. So in fact, the dimensions of the briefcase
So
have
I've
changed.
done a lot of reading about this.
Please.
And I think McTiernan did talk about this at one point. So
he did. Yeah.
Right. So David, correct me if I've gotten this wrong, but they like that cut that you singled out, Griff, is correct, because theoretically they remove a painting, it's painted on canvas, and then the wooden thing is called a spanner.
Correct.
And basically he would remove the spanner and then just fold the canvas up in the painting.
And the canvas would be unharmed. And apparently there was more of this in the film, and test audiences didn't like that there was a painting getting folded. And so McTiernan was like, just cut it to the bone then. Just show it for a second.
Right.
Yes.
Because I certainly rewound it like 5 times to try to track it. And when he takes it off the wall, you do see him stripping it to some degree and removing wood from around
he's
it.
taking the frame out. He's taking it out of the frame.
So then I was like in real time going, oh, clever. What he's going to do is also remove the spanner so that he can fold it just as a flat canvas. But then you don't see him do that. It makes sense that the movie is cutting out the footage of him doing that.
Apparently there were also like knives in the briefcase that he was using to like remove the spanner. But
that rules.
But I would be very upset if you were just taking a knife to a Monet.
Yes.
You know, I'm not that much of an art person, so I understand the focus group of just being like, no, stop it.
According to a Reddit thread that I have open from 10 years ago, Monet's style involved thick application of paint followed by heavy varnishing, so the folding wouldn't damage the painting. Because and then another person here has written something which is this movie makes me want to drink wine and have sex. I think these are both.
I mean,
good.
This is a valuable Reddit thread.
Good point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this in r/Rene Russo? Where is this posted?
It's on our movies from 10 years ago.
Okay.
There's no mention of how insanely uncomfortable it would be to have sex on marble stairs, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But
look, my man is just experimenting. He wants to know every surface, and not all of them are going to work, but then you know it for a fact.
Like, I couldn't have sex on marble stairs when I was 22. I know these are 40-somethings, but it's not going to happen. Like, you have beds, sir. You are a millionaire.
They start on the floor.
Yeah.
And that looks really uncomfortable. And then they're trying to get upstairs. I mean, at least the stairs are offering them some leverage, you know? And then the chair thing. And that's when the Fiji water happens, which I do believe is how I learned about Fiji water. Like, I don't think that we had that in Atlanta in the 2000s or when I saw this.
Back when it was a luxury item.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But then, you know, the face that Pierce Brosnan makes after she pours the water on him, he does look like he's in a little bit of pain.
Yes,
you know?
he's
so
a little
it's
achy.
like maybe the stairs hurt him as well.
That's a good point. I will say, like, I get the sort of heat of the moment. Oh, the idea of this is sexy, that we don't even have time to get to bed. We're doing it here. Every time I've had sex on a surface that is not a bed, it really makes me appreciate beds.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking in real time, God, we don't give beds enough credit. They're kind of the backbone of society.
Shout out to beds. Yeah. So good.
Wait, okay, but I do feel that all of the back pain and the marble stair sex is worth it for the shot when McTiernan does a close-up of the breasts of the sculpture in Pierce Brosnan's lobby and then zooms up to the real thing. I mean, that is fucking cinema.
The sculpture is basically going like, like, hell yeah.
God, the 90s were a wild time to grow up.
Oh, boy. Yes. Okay, so the painting gets stolen. Who gets called? My favorite boy, wearing his hair at its absolute worst. It's really, really tough. For a guy with notoriously good hair, like, what happened to Dennis Leary in, like, sort of 98 to 99 when he suddenly has this, like, out of the shower, like, mop on his head? Like, I don't get what it is.
Do you guys remember the Leary Sting public hair battle?
No.
Like, no. What do you mean? Like, he has sort of, like, Sting-like hair? Like the classic?
No.
Okay.
At some point in the 90s, when I guess Leary is still doing stand-up, I don't remember if it was within his actor while, you know, doing fucking local radio shows or whatever, but within some sort of comedy context, Leary starts aggressively making fun in some broadcast form of Sting desperately trying and failing to conquer his aggressive male pattern baldness.
Yeah.
Right? And like, this guy won't let it go, this and that.
I think this was during the MTV promo era of Dennis Leary, right? Like
that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yes. And Sting sort of publicly responds and is like, my friend, I look forward to checking in with you again in 20 years when you're fighting the same battle that I am. And 20 years later, Leary, like, hit back and was like, look at my fucking hair, asshole. I have no idea what you're talking about. I won.
Leary has outstanding hair. He always has.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why he's doing it this. I mean, he's playing a deflated guy.
Like, he is supposed to be beleaguered and defeated and not able to keep up with these people. He's on a different plane, you know? He's on a lower plane.
I agree with that. I get it in principle. I do think his hair is straight up annoying to look at, even if it really characterizes him well.
It looks like a 12-year-old's haircut, you know?
Yes.
Like, Dennis Leary. So this is at the end of a run in the 90s. Dennis Leary was in about 25 movies. Like, Hollywood saw this kind of handsome Irish guy explode as a stand-up and was just like, he can play any cop or criminal in any script ever. Like,
yes.
The world is his oyster.
Right. Like, rarely a star, almost always just showing up and going like, all right, listen, asshole, you know, and like having a cup of coffee. I think this is one of his best performances ever. I think he's so good in this movie.
And you and I, look, we have a well-established history of loving, constantly going to the mat for Dennis Leary, character actor, one of the great unsung resources.
We love him in The Amazing Spider-Man, which he is surprisingly, like, low-key in. Yes, that is true.
A movie that, like, eats dog shit all day and all night long.
Is he the dad?
He's he's Emma Stone's dad.
Yeah, so he has the joke about the Branzino, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Is that-
yeah.
Yep.
Amanda,
Listen, I was there.
David and I argue that's his Oscar clip scene. The best supporting actor nomination he deserved for single-handedly carrying fucking Amazing Spider-Man across the finish line. It's the Branzino scene.
Poor Andrew Garfield.
He's so fucking... Garfield was trying.
He's doing his
But
best.
Leary's the
He's
only
doing
one
his
who
best.
pulled it off,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of effort in that movie.
Yeah.
Leary's the only one who's actually translating throughout the entire process. But no, to your point, Leary took a couple stabs at being a leading man, and those don't work. And almost
Not
anytime
really.
Leary was called in as a supporting guy, it's like a fucking giant hit.
Yeah, I mean the ref. Ben, do you want to weigh in here? Do you have a Leary take? I feel you leaning in on Leary.
I like to stand up. I loved all the MTV promos.
Of course.
And I
course.
do
You liked his
feel like
smoking.
well, yeah, I did like his smoking. I like the asshole song, of course.
We
Of
all like
course.
the asshole song.
Someone
Very
had to
good.
bring it up. What are the movies that he was the lead of?
The Ref.
I don't remember.
Is
that.
The Ref not a movie for you?
No.
Ah, see, I think you'd like The Ref. The Ref is
Oh,
good.
you haven't seen it or you don't like it, Ben?
I've not seen it.
Interesting. That's a little damning in and of itself, although I do agree
I don't
that Ben
think
would
I've
like
seen it either.
Interesting.
The Ref, aka Hostile Hostages, with Judy Davis and Kevin Spacey, I apologize, is a very fun crime comedy starring Dennis
Yeah.
Leary. Yes, it's really good.
David, am I wrong in remembering that there is a Dennis Leary, Janine Garofalo, Ireland-themed rom-com that Leary maybe also wrote?
That sounds familiar. The Matchmaker is the name of that movie. He did
Yes.
not write it. The movie
Okay.
you're thinking of that he wrote is To If By Sea with Sandra
Yes.
Bullock, which I've never
Thank you.
seen, which
Yes.
might be good. I mean, it seems kind of fun.
I watched his Timeline of My Career or Iconic Roles
Sure.
or whatever
Right.
it was, one of those videos where they're going over all his explosive I was there too roles in these beloved 90s
Like Natural
movies.
Born Killers or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then every time they get to one of those vehicles, like The Ref, like To If By Sea, like The Matchmaker, which were the ones of him trying to level up to being the guy,
Right.
and all of those movies he either wrote or developed or produced or something like that, every one of them he had the exact same line, which was like, we were making something really special and the studio fucked with it. Like he had this recurring narrative of, I should have had my Jerry Maguire jump up moment,
Right.
and other people fucked it up every time.
But then he also, what was the early FX show that he had?
Rescue Me.
Well,
that was kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
his, Before Rescue Me, he had The
That's
Job.
the shift.
Yeah.
Right. I feel
Yeah.
like once The Job I loved, which was
Job
him
was
doing
really good.
Rescue Me on ABC
Oh.
in a post NYPD Blue environment where
Sure.
he's like, can I push the limits of a little more cursing, a little more of this? And it was a little restrictive.
Did you see his butt?
I don't think you ever did.
Mm.
No,
But
you
that was
probably
New York
saw it in
City.
Rescue Me.
Cop. That show gets canceled.
Right.
And he goes to FX, and Rescue Me is almost a soft reboot of The Job, but
With
on
one
cable.
difference.
They'll let him do more. Which
Apart
is
from the fact that it's on cable, 9/11 had happened. So Rescue
Right.
Me is more
Oh.
laden with because that is one of
Oh.
the crucial immediate post 9/11 texts.
Yes.
Is Rescue Me, which is a forgotten
got
show,
this-
and if you put it on now, you would be like, how was this aired without congressional hearings? Because it is
Yes.
everything about it is problematic. Like that's the point. They're firemen and they're up to no good. But it was a crucial post 9/11 thing.
And I think
Rescue
that
Me.
show ended on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. That became his plan,
Correct.
where he was
Oh,
like, this
no.
story will end 10 years on from the day.
I'm looking at it now. Yeah. It aired on FX from July 21st, 2004 to September 7th, 2011.
But I think you're right that gets all of that out of his system.
Yeah.
Where he's like, there's a show where I'm the main creative force and I'm the lead. And
He got
now
Emmy
I don't feel the need to.
nominations. Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah, he did all that.
And so he's more comfortably than just still doing his Leary supporting parts on the side. TV
Got
is
it.
his one
right,
outlet.
Right.
And then they try to do the rock and roll one, which is the second
Ooh.
worst hairdo he's ever had on camera.
Yeah, that was tough. Yeah, he's still around. I just love him in this because he makes a lot of sense as a divorced New York City cop. Obviously, it's a role he played multiple times in his career, but he's just doesn't lay it on. He's not doing the Dennis Leary thing. Like that, it's what he's actually best at, is just kind of being weary.
Weary Leary. Can I call out my favorite element of this performance? And it's just the type of acting I love the fucking most. I was on our friends, Ray Tattori and Jordan Fisher's podcast, To the White Sea, about the Coen brothers, just talking about behavioral acting. My favorite shit in the world is when a movie, whether it's the director's idea or the actor's idea or whatever, gives the characters a menial task to do that the actor plays as more important than the actual point of the scene. Leary getting briefed by Frankie Faison, walking through the museum, being told about the case he's now going to have to devote his life to, while 90% of his energy is spent on trying to make his coffee with one hand.
Right. Yeah.
He's in one hand got creamer, stirrer stick, cup.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get it the way he wants it, one-handedly, while half listening.
It's really good. Yeah.
He should have won all 4 acting categories that year for this walk and talk.
He has the line of like, some of the women in here are wearing my salary. I thought that's a good line.
Yeah, it's really good.
This is another smart, though I think like McTiernan calculation. I'm giving him credit for this because it feels like the kind of thing we've heard him doing, although who knows if it originated with Wimmer or Dixon. But in a world where it'd be very easy for audience members to be like, why the fuck do I care about these 2 characters? Absurd levels of wealth, unbelievably carefree and beautiful. Everything comes to them naturally. It helps to have the Leary constantly calling out, all of this is ridiculous.
Yes, but also Leary is still like totally ensorcelled by Rene Russo, which like, how could you not be?
Yes.
But I mean, there's the great scene when he's like driving her and he's like, are you hungry? I know a pizza place. And then like, it's like so gently, she doesn't even say anything. And he's like, pizza's not really your thing. And then she has the iconic, what's the matter, Lieutenant? Did she leave you for a stockbroker?
Urologist.
Yeah. But they like, and even throughout the movie, the rest of the movie, he's like irritated by her, but also like both impressed by her because she's good at her job. And also obviously she's like so beautiful and seductive. Like that scene after their first date where he gets the report and he's like, oh, she went home alone, and there's just like this twinge of him still thinking. So, but like you need the rational person in the movie to still be drawn to these people, to make you feel okay about the fact that like, okay, they're like rich and this doesn't matter, but like they're appealing.
You're right. It's key because he's got to sort of be it has to run in both directions. Yeah. He has to be able to call out this entire movie is based on champagne problems. And he also needs to acknowledge this is super fucking compelling.
Right.
This is exciting and I want to watch this.
It would be funny if he was like picking up the phone and being like, yes, I understand your entire family was murdered, but I have to figure out who took the Monet.
But that call out, I mean, it's the swirls on paintings call out at the end where she goes, did you ever care about this? And he's like, I worked on a fucking like...
Yeah, he's like, it pissed me off at first, but no, here are the real things.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was working on those cases last week. Like, my life is still... Yeah.
Yeah, he's a detective. He has many cases at the same time.
Yeah.
So, they come in and Rene Russo arrives. She's wearing like a scarf, like she's from on Dune or whatever, right? Like it's like half of her head.
No, she's wearing fur.
She's wearing the fur. And I guess she wears the scarf later. Yes, the scarf is later.
Yeah, listen, how do you want to do the outfits? Should we just do outfit by outfit?
Yes.
Okay,
I think so.
Welcome to Amanda Dobbins' Fashion Corner.
So on this one, like her first shot, it starts with her shoe, which is a high-heeled Mary Jane. And then it scans up her leg to where she's wearing a skirt with a slit.
Yes, that's right. And a garter. Yeah, right.
And thigh highs and a garter. Which frankly, I think is like gilding the lily a little bit. Even in the context of Rene Russo being incredibly
Frankie
sexy.
Faison's eyes are going like, whoa. Yeah.
Like the rest of the time, she is so chic. She is wearing clothes that like, I imagined maybe like one day if I went to New York and I became the most powerful, stylish woman in the world, like this is how I would dress. But there actually is no one powerful and stylish enough in the real world to pull this off. Like she just, it's so stylish. Lots of muted colors, but perfectly tailored coats, chunky turtlenecks, lots of turtlenecks.
It's fall. There's a fall vibe, right?
Sure. Like amazing jackets, lots of different strands of pearls. Then, of course, there's all the Bulgari jewelry that is gifted to her by the product placement. And she looks so incredible. And maybe it's just because I'm obsessed with this movie, but there's like Nora Ephron, and specifically You've Got Mail, has like a very like a late 90s fashion thing that is now getting like imitated. There are lots of like bad
but
Instagrams
that movie's a perfect like time capsule distillation of a fashion moment.
Like it's like Meg Ryan is like a walking Gap ad in that movie for that like time period. But I kind of feel like the Rene Russo is the other half of like the late 90s in this movie. It's like a very, very specific Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, like on steroids, incredible look. I love it.
When she's got the blazer sort of, I don't know, what is it? It's like sort of like a corset thing, like that she's wearing when she's interrogating the Romanians.
So
that's really good.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else. I mean, the see-through dress is obviously the sort of, showstopper that she has.
But that's pinned to the breast conversation, which is still to come. Keep that on the cork board.
Right.
I do think there's something to, like, she has this background as a model, right? Like, she's wearing the fuck out of those clothes.
Yeah.
She knows how to enter a room in this movie with an outfit that would overcome a lot of other actresses.
That's true.
Like, you would feel them collapse under the weight of what they were wearing, or the pressure of how do I sell this like I actually feel in this, and can move in it. But even though her background is model and is like fairly high fashion, when she starts acting, I feel like, and part of this is probably the fact that she's not like a 20-something, she's presented as like, this is a grounded woman, right? We're not having the love interest in this movie be 25-year-old Sharon Stone. It's Rene Russo. She is like a grown-up and she's centered.
Right. And she is set off against Anna.
Yes.
Who shows up in like, Megadelia's black leather, like, or faux leather tube dresses and high combat boots and all that sort of stuff.
Who is played by a supermodel. Like that Esther Canetis is just a supermodel. Like that's all.
Despite the fact that Rene Russo is like innately statuesque, right? And has that presence and everything. I think a lot of the movies up until this point were playing against that. And it's like putting her in more Gap clothes. Yeah. In like Major League and the Lethal Weapons and Tin Cup and everything.
Yeah.
This kind of feels like the first time you're like letting Rene be a clothes horse, which obviously reaches its apex in Rocky and Bullwinkle the following year.
Of course.
But there is something about like, if they had asked her to do this 2 years off of retiring from modeling, she maybe would have been like, I don't want this to define myself as an actress. I need to like build my own identity.
It's so good.
Versus now you feel like her walking into these rooms and being like, I know how to fucking do this.
What's the name of the villain in Tin Cup, Griffin? Played by Don Johnson.
David Sims.
That's right.
The villain's name is David Sims.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
It sure is. So, she works for insurance, right? She doesn't want, the company doesn't want to pay $100 million for a stolen Monet. So she's got to find it. And she Googles who likes Monet. Thomas Crown comes up. Bam! She's got her man. Like, that's pretty much the extent of her investigation.
Well, no, first she has to interrogate one of the decoy thieves.
Yeah, very cool.
And violate his civil rights and in multiple languages. And then figures out that they do, in fact, speak English. And she figures out the whole decoy.
These guys really like don't know each other, didn't know what was going on, were picked up on the side of the road.
Yeah.
A weird lack of planning or strategy.
Right. There was a middleman.
She notices the thing in the bench that there are 3 legs in the video and 2 when they were walking around, which is the moment that finally impresses Leary beyond just her energy of fuck, she's picking up on shit. But also they call out that her finder's fee, basically, if she recovers a painting, is 20% of the value.
5%.
It's not. It's 5%. Okay. It's $5 million. $5 million bucks.
But even still, yes, for $100 million, you get the sense it's a little unspoken in the movie that this is probably far and away the biggest coup she stands to pull on a
She
single
has
job.
like a pied-a-terre in the village. Like she's doing great. Yeah.
She doesn't have furniture though.
No, but that's her vibe. You know, what does she need?
But
with
whatever,
furniture?
like competitive part,
just give her a marble
the same
step.
Part
right
of Thomas Crown that wants to do this heist for sport. She's aware that she's potentially hooked the biggest fish of her career.
Yeah.
There's a point of pride in this.
So the cat and mouse game begins fairly quickly after this, right? There's not really a lot of like other characters in this film. It's Pierce and Rene circling each other with like Leary and Frankie Faison like on the sidelines. You got like,
and Paul,
Fritz Weaver. You got Paul. You've got
Ben Gazzara,
Ben Gazzara, right? Yeah.
But like, you know, a thing this movie carries over from the original, which is like, don't make it an extended cat and mouse game. She pins him almost immediately. Yeah. And then basically starts the attitude of like, we both know what happened here. Can we like skip the fucking...
Right.
And it becomes this game of like, we're just both not going to say the thing directly.
But they even pretty quickly say it directly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to... When is it exactly when he just starts speaking like... I guess it's not on the first date.
No.
So what's the first date? Is the first date Cipriani?
Yeah, the first date is when they go to museum.
When she won't sip the espresso.
Right. And it's like comes pretty quickly after. So he gives a replacement painting, right? Which is just, let's put a pin in that. Yeah. If you haven't seen the Thomas Crown Affair in 1999, that painting is going to be important. So she meets him at that gala and like outright accuses him. She's just like, this is you. And then he asks her on a date immediately for the next night. And she says yes.
Doesn't deny it. Doesn't even attempt to deny it, really.
And so the first date, he takes her to the museum and then to Cipriani. And she steals his keys at the museum and passes them up, puts them on a Degas statue, normal stuff, and someone picks them up. And then, and they go to Cipriani and they do like backstory while the keys are being copied, which again, Griffin, I think you could cut that insert.
I maybe particularly specifically like key copying as a thing.
Okay.
Where it just works for me and I like watching it. But the espresso thing is such good, like kind of fucking Hays Code flirtation screenwriting that I think like most filmmakers, when you can now say anything, don't realize the effectiveness of like having that sort of coded flirtation.
Yeah.
Of like, and you believe that she would be more charmed by that than him saying like, so are we going back to my place?
Right.
To code it in.
Right.
Well, do you want to stay awake for another 5 hours or not?
Right.
Yeah. I just find that very hot.
I agree. Super, super hot. I would, to be clear, fuck both of these people. They're both super hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Either of them can take me to Cipriani anytime, even though the food there is terrible.
Well, but this is 1999.
Yeah, it might be better.
Still pretty good.
This is Cini, you know? And it's just like, I think it's still just like the one Cipriani in New York as opposed to however many like members clubs or whatever.
That's a good call. That's a good call. I also just want to say I would probably pity fuck Dennis Leary. I do it with less gusto.
I would go get pizza with Dennis Leary in a second. Are you kidding me? It'd be great.
Yeah.
And, you know, he could be like, I never took any of Bill Hicks's jokes. And I'd be like, I know you didn't, Dennis. I know.
Okay. Okay.
So, yes, cat and mouse. Well, the next thing is he lets her take the painting back, basically, right? After their first dinner. Or is it after they have sex?
No, she breaks in.
I know, but he's letting her do it.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, he's letting her do it, but
it's got the dogs playing poker underneath. Like it's, you know, he's one step ahead.
Right. It's after the first date because that's how she gets the keys and she slips them back on the and then she shows up in like her insane knee-high combat boots and they do the 10 code digit break-in and she finds like the button under the desk to, you know,
right, he's got
his
secret shelf. His secret painting shelf hidden behind a different expensive painting.
Don't we are, yeah.
But her read on the situation from very early on has been, his motivation was, you know, their question is, why is the guy who already owns a Monet going through the trouble of stealing a Monet and serving jail time.
Right.
And her read is like, he was tired of looking at that Monet.
Right.
And then, yes, he does this swap with the museum where to sort of make good and present a good public face, he gives them a different painting from his own collection.
Yeah.
To fill the space while they wait to recover this stolen painting he knows nothing about.
Right. But so the dogs it's revealed that it's a fake painting because the guy is like, you've got a ghost. And she tries to be like, Monet sometimes reused canvases. But they're like, did they reuse like dogs playing poker?
Not this tacky shit.
And so then I think that's when she puts on the dress and goes.
No, after that is the passionate night.
And she's like, I'm that son of a bitch. Cut to Rene Russo in a see-through dress at a black and white gala with a red, not quite a pashmina, but like a long red silken shawl. And she cuts in and they have an absolutely hilarious but still sort of sexy dance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's ridiculous.
And the music is ridiculous. But it's hot.
And they're also like, trying to like shimmy a lot, and the cuts are like trying to make them look as cool as possible while they shimmy. But I don't know. The best part though is like all of the extras, everyone else who's at this party is like doing like a very, very like faithful, just like dance step back and forth, side to side, but so like when they finally make out, when Pierce Brosnan is like, do you want to dance or do you want to dance?
Do you want to dance? That was the big trailer line.
And she like thinks about it for a long time.
I mean,
and there are just like all these people shuffling at the edge of the frame in their like dumpy black and white outfits, just being like, do. It's really, really funny.
It feels like the Muppet Show at the dance sketch where the puppets are limited in how much they can dance together.
Yeah, it's really good.
Her 10-second reaction shot of
my God, it's so long.
Whether or not to kiss him.
Yeah.
Is what should have single-handedly gotten her in the best actress lineup in 1999. I know it's a tough year.
She's on my ballot, baby.
That fucking moment's incredible because, like, I relate it to in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. That's the end of the title. It never had part 1 in the title.
Right.
What are you talking about? Your memory is false. There's the moment when Tom Cruise asks Haley Atwell, "Are you okay?" And you watch 10 seconds of her processing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a similarly stunning, like, extended 10 seconds of actress playing a bunch of emotions only on her face.
Right.
But that is very expressive. Rene Russo barely moves a muscle. And in 10 seconds, you watch her go through 7 cycles of thinking about whether or not she should do it strategically and whether or not she wants to do it.
Also, while, like, arched backwards, like in a very like because they had to set up this shot. The camera is like up above. The people are shuffling back and forth around her.
And she also keeps moving forward in increments and then sort of stopping herself, doing another gut check before she continues.
That's the power of Pilates,
It's fucking incredible. Here's a question to the group.
Mm-hmm.
When she shows up that night in that outfit, do you think what's driving her is the moment with the dogs now has really turned her on? The level of guy she's playing with, there's something exciting and thrilling to her of like, I've met my match, versus this guy is good. I need to step up my game and playing the act of seducing him in order to nab him, or both operating at equal levels at that moment.
I think she's just kind of like, it's on now. Like this is really, he ups it to a level and she's like, okay, like if this is how you want to play, then this is like how we're going to play.
But it's also an aphrodisiac, right?
Yeah.
Like,
of course. But I think that's like their whole thing is like, this is all one big turn on to them, right? This is what they're two people who really enjoy the hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They are, it's less cat and mouse and more like cat and cat or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you basically then roll into, I think a lot of movies attempt to do, and I think often veer too far into ridiculousness or feeling like porny, of we are going to convey to you 1 week of these two characters having the most insane sex imaginable.
Right.
They just cannot tear themselves off of each other.
And it's awesome.
You believe it.
You do believe it. No, this is the most fun they're having. It's like, of course there's the element of like, this can't last forever, right? She's chasing him, blah, blah, blah. But it's the initial insane passionate sex, marble steps, Fiji water, and then the Martinique like adventure.
Okay, well, we skipped the glider. Okay,
is the glider in between? Okay,
yes.
Glider
So because here's what happens. Okay, so basically they do the glider and then they like land in some random field because that's what happens when you do a glider, which is one of the many reasons I'm confused by gliders. And so he calls someone to pick them up. And then they get on the plane and she says that island isn't Manhattan, because instead of going back to the city, they go to Martinique. But yeah, so the glider. I guess the glider is supposed to be like the romance moment of this. And also it is an homage to the original.
It's an homage, right? My wife was like, what is this? Why would anyone get in one of these?
Like, what? No, that is my question. Like, what's up with gliders? Why are people doing that?
David, as someone who hates planes, do you find gliders more or less terrifying?
I mean, I'm not getting in a glider, but like I assume the point of a glider, as not someone who uses them, is that it's sort of like without the noise and business of airplane engines, you really feel like you're flying, right? Like it's like you're not like you don't feel like you're being held up there by machinery. You're just like swooping. You're swooping in the air, and isn't this wonderful? I kind of respect gliders because I respect that planes and are designed to stay in the air, right? Like, which is something I think about when I'm afraid of flying. Is like they're aerodynamically supposed to be in the air, and that's what a glider is, right? Like, stays in the air, right? But no, I would not get in a glider. Jesus.
I mean, it stays in the air until it doesn't, right?
It's true.
That's one thing I would be thinking about.
Aren't you gliding down? Like,
yes.
Isn't the point? Like, because I mean, that's what happens in the movie is that they glide for a while. And I had to tell you, it's like when the Bill Conti score is like at its peak, and also it's fall in New York. Don't you just love fall in New York? I want to send you some freshly sharpened pencils. Like it's really beautiful scenery.
Yes.
So they got that. And that's powerful. As someone who relocated from the East Coast and we don't have that kind of fall anymore, like I appreciate having that on camera.
Another thing you've got, Mel, captures very well.
Yeah, it really does.
But this is maybe, somewhere within this sequence is when they start layering in windmills in my mind.
Yes.
For the first time?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
They pay
that sounds right.
auditory homage to it.
Yes.
I love that I think the nudity in the sex scene is very like hot and natural, but even hotter is she's just walking around topless stuff in Martinique.
Yeah. So
like that's powerful. Yeah. You don't see that in movies a lot.
It's like that plus the red hat.
Oh, the hat.
This movie is important to me for many reasons, and it has like all of the things that I love in a movie. Hot people, heists, New York, like a sense of fun, filming on location. But it's the Martinique scene, and that is like my dream vacation home. Like that is it's perfect. There's no one else around. He unveils a closet of clothes that are cut just, are going to fit her.
Yeah.
He starts cooking. The perfect blue shutters, the bougainvillea, the view. Then she makes it down to the beach wearing a red hat, a towel, and no top. Just absolute legend in the game. It's just... And then they have that sexy dinner.
Yeah.
Where he's like, do you want to open this unmarked crate that has a painting in it? And she puts it in the fire and then they just like stare at each other. Just like, that is some of the hottest shit I've seen. Like, pun not intended, that I've seen in a movie for a long time.
Yes. Like the extended him saying, do you want to see it? You sure you don't want to see it? Can I show it to you?
It's just...
As if he's like a fucking 15-year-old boy.
It's really...
At a party with beer.
Really good stuff.
Right. But it's so much more elevated. I mean, this is the section of the movie where they catch feelings.
Yeah.
Where it evolves from just being the hottest weekend in the world to, oh, fuck, we care about this more than we ever want to admit to ourselves or each other.
She's realizing that he is getting ready for his escape. And so she's confronted with like, oh, he might, not be around for much longer.
Well, and the great dialogue exchange where she kind of looks at him in like the game recognized game way and goes like, man, this must fucking hit every time you bring someone here. And he just says, I don't bring other people here. In a way that is guileless, that isn't like him trying to convince her.
You don't think it's a line.
Right.
You don't think it's like just him buttering her up. Disney just announced that Moana 2 is going to come out in November. Guys, just FYI.
I'm sorry. Wait a second.
I know. I had to tell you. I'm sorry. And I know we have to wrap up soon. There was a second Moana film that has quietly been made that is coming out within this calendar year. That is correct. Thanksgiving, Moana 2, an animated film.
And then there's also still live action Moana happening?
I mean, who knows? But, you know.
Did you see that Moana is still the most watched movie on all of streaming for like the 6th consecutive year?
Yeah.
I've contributed many a viewing of that.
Yeah.
So, the children, they love it. I thought that I've still never seen Moana.
Oh, it rules.
Wait, you have a kid. I guess
That's
he's only
insane.
2.
Yeah,
he's only
no.
2.
So here Knox has seen 3 movies in his life. Would you like to know what they are?
Singing in the Rain.
Number 1, Singing in the Rain. Number 2, Mary Poppins. Number 3, Top Gun Maverick.
I mean, he's batting 3 for 3 right now.
I'm keeping it real. All right? My values are being handed down to Knox.
Look, Amanda, I'm completely the same. The first thing I showed my kid was Ponyo. Like I am also like trying to show her things she likes. But you are about to enter an era of them being able to be like,
it's true. I got a picture from him at the playground today, and he was like holding a Bluey something that some other kid had brought. And I was like, you don't know what Bluey is, but I know what it is.
You're going to love Bluey. You really should start with, yes, Amanda. And when you do, start texting me about it, please. Because I know everything about Bluey.
Right now, we're obviously a Sesame Street family. Yes, and then also,
smart.
And then Snoopy and like the Charlie Brown specials have become a big hit because Charlie Brown Christmas is like his favorite thing that he's ever seen. I'm counting that as a TV show and not a movie. If you count that as a 30-minute movie, then he's seen 4 films.
No, I think TV special.
TV special, yeah.
He's gotten into Snoopy through finding Snoopy in the vestibule, right? That was the entry point?
Yeah, well, thank you to Netflix who did send a stuffed Snoopy to our house and that sleeps with him every night.
Okay.
So
that was the entry point.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. Moana 2. I thought the young woman whose name I can't remember who is the voice of Moana and was very good in Mean Girls.
I think she's a real talent.
She's great. I love her.
Yeah. David, I feel like you back this up. Anecdotally, everyone I know with a child of a certain age is like the overlap in the Venn diagram of movie my kid wants to watch 1,000,000 times and movie I'm least annoyed by watching 1,000,000 times. Moana is right in the center.
Yeah, Moana is a really easy watch and it's a great movie. As we've discussed on this very podcast, it had its own episode. Wait, who's directing the sequel? I didn't even think of that. Probably not Musker and Clements.
No, I'd imagine not.
Anyway, so honestly, we're kind of close to the end after Martinique because what's left after that is the only part of Thomas Crown Affair I don't like.
He offers her $10 million to drop
go away. Right.
And go. So like at that point, they are fully acknowledging it. Like, you know, and they also had some like pillow talk when they're both totally naked in bed, which either of you guys watch season 3 of The Morning Show?
No.
Have you heard about Jennifer Aniston's nude scene?
Yes, with John Hamm.
It's not totally nude, but basically they are ripping off that shot in Thomas Crown Affair where she is like fully draped over him in bed.
She's
and
like
some
on top
linens
of
are
him.
flowing.
Right.
And it's like and it's well lit. So that happens and they talk about thievery in bed. And then he's like, I'll give you 10 million to come away with me. And she's like, you know, but we'd be on the run. And he like offers to teach her how to hide the money.
There's the line, I was looking for it on the quotes page, but there's the line he has in response to that.
Yeah.
Where he's like, we'd be on the run with resources.
Yeah, we'd be fugitives with means.
Yes. That makes a big difference.
Yeah. As soon as she comes back is when Leary gives her the photos of him with Anna.
Right, which I just have no patience for because I just the thing in any movie where she's like, what is this picture? And he's like, I can explain. And she's like, you know what? I don't want you to explain and I'm leaving right now. And he's like, but I literally, the words, she's my daughter are the next words out of my mouth. And she's like, no, I don't want to hear, you know, like, and so we have to wait 20 more minutes until he reveals, yes, this is my like adopted art forging
like
daughter.
my legal ward.
I like the twist of her being the forger.
Yeah, it's a good twist.
Yeah, it's good, and it's the paternal pride of the guy in jail smiling at his daughter's work.
The fucking great Mark Margolis.
When they first talk about the photos, they're in the car, and she's like, Jimmy, pull over. Like, and he says, Jimmy, keep driving. And I just really feel for Jimmy, the driver, in that, like, really, what are you supposed to do?
No right choices.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very uncomfortable. He eventually stops and he listens to Rene Russo, which is, I do think, the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it must be uncomfortable for Jimmy.
But I do think, there's the unspoken code if you're a good private driver of like, look, if a woman says she wants to get out of the car, you let her out of the car, right? And
yeah,
she gets out of the car, like Central Park or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, this is the frustrating part of like every rom-com where the two characters get in a fight about a lie, and then you're just like, how long until they get back together?
Right, yeah.
This movie has the advantage of they need to stay in each other's orbit because of the actual things happening, even if there's tension between them. But the original Thomas Crown, it sets up this final gambit of.
Well, I was just gonna say, in the movie's defense and in like Rene Russo's defense of these photos, like, the way that Thomas Crown is dancing with Anna at the gala before she interrupts is like a little more intimate than I would want my prospective partner to be with his supermodel legal ward. Do you know what I'm saying?
I would agree.
Like, there's a little bit more of a suggestion of something grown up there.
He's not 100% vindicated by the reveal.
I'm just
the vibes
saying.
were weird between them.
Yeah, and it's like that when she shows up the next time, and like she's just sitting in her little tube top dress on his bed. It's very confusing.
It's not a full Sixth Sense. Now I replay it in my mind, and there was no one there, and nothing was happening.
Yeah. There's like a lot of nuzzling in that in basically every interaction they have, which she's European, but I don't know.
But the thing I like about the Art Forger twist is that it does show his strength of character. That there's a reason why he won't explain it to Rene Russo. The longer it goes on, you're like, if he has an excuse, why wouldn't he tell her?
Right.
And it's because there's another person he needs to look out for.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, she goes right to Dennis Leary. She's like, he's going to steal another painting. And
I have the pictures of the corners.
Right. It's time to go. And and then we go right into the, the Magritte Son of Man bowler hat heist, like the wonderful final heist of the film.
I was just going to say, the original film has this ending that I could not even explain in detail, but basically Thomas Crown sets a morality trap for her where he tells her the plans of the next crime he's going to do, and then sets this test of like, if you try to stop me, then I'll know it's this, and if you don't, it's that. And he's putting her in the position of either like, you run away with me or you catch me. And then ends up to be a red herring, and he like leaves her a message in a way that makes it clear that he does love her, but he's running away so that she doesn't get tagged with his crime. I watched this, like, not having seen it in a bit, trying to remember how they shake out the ending, where there's a similar thing of like, how does he not make her culpable?
Right.
How could they possibly find a happy ending for each other? That I do think this movie sets up well. A very complicated way of being able basically for the characters to have their cake and eat it too.
Yes.
That doesn't feel like a cheat.
And also feels like pretty exhilarating in the moment.
Yes.
Like the final set piece with the Magritte throwback and then all the people in bowler hats is just, it's like very funny and memorable. Yeah. And then cut to he sets off some smoke bombs or something. I don't understand why he needs to set off the smoke bombs if he's just going to hit the fire alarm, but maybe the sprinklers aren't activated unless there's smoke. Anyway.
Yeah.
And he's jammed the track of the painting protection, whatever, so that
with
Crown
pencils.
Enterprises pencils.
Freshly sharpened pencils.
Really great. Freshly sharpened pencils. Are they sharpened though?
They look pretty fucking sharp to me.
So the sprinklers go off on the Pizarro that he loaned to the museum. And it turns out that the Pizarro was a forgery in water paint done over the original Monet that he stole. And so the water paint gets washed away by the sprinklers, and the Monet is right there back on the wall. He had returned it almost immediately after he stole it.
The layers of this are so much fun. And in a way, as we were saying, it's more impressive that the movie is able to make you understand all of this without any wind up or like post-heist explanation. But that you think the movie is presenting for you, oh, it's a reverse heist. The thing he needs to do to dig himself out of this is to somehow get the painting back in its original spot without anyone catching him, which would then prove that he stole it in the first place.
Right.
Which already is a fun twist in a heist movie. And then you realize that's never what actually was going on. It was there the whole fucking time. He just needs the theatrical circumstances to reveal what has been the case for a long time.
Right.
Which rules.
It's so good.
He does steal another painting, of course, but she returns it. So I guess no harm, no foul.
Right. And they don't even bother explaining how he stole it.
No.
Yeah, which I think is smart.
There was some notion of, I think, this sequence being longer, and McTiernan was like, who cares? At this point, you're more invested in the fun and in the romance. Like,
but that's also, I was going to say, it's his final I love you, which is, I'm giving you a painting that you can return so you can get the fee that I deprived you of.
Right.
From wrapping you up in my complicated thing.
Right. Though she does say that her people don't represent that one. So
I think she's still going to find a way to get a commission off of that.
I guess so. I mean, my main issue is the way that she returns it is that she's like absolutely heartbroken at JFK and just hands it over to the like United Airlines lady and is like, can you just like give this multi-million-dollar painting back?
Can I buy a seat for this painting?
No, and then she's just like, the very nice person at the ticketing gate at JFK is like, sure, but it won't get there till tomorrow. And she's like, that's fine. And I'm like, this painting does not need to go in JFK lost and found overnight. You know, like we've all had experiences. I don't have a lot of confidence that it's actually getting back to the police chief. Yeah.
My read when she calls out that it's not one of the galleries that she represents or whatever, that it's like, if he stole another painting that would directly be under her purview, he'd be making her more complicit.
Right.
Versus her just kind of being able to now be a good Samaritan.
Right. And also now it's like not her problem. So she can go and like, you know, hang out with him if she wants. It's her own
kind of morality test of what she does.
Right.
Right.
We already talked about Dennis basically hand-waving the whole thing perfectly, like the great little bit of screenwriting. But I love her reaction to Thomas on the plane is initially like screaming and throttling him in annoyance.
Yeah.
Not just like,
really, really good.
Breezy,
really
great,
good.
Let's go, you know.
So can I ask, now that those paintings have been returned, is he in the clear? Does he have to go to a non-extradition country? Like what, you know?
Great question.
He's probably in the clear. I think trying to prove it would be like, what's the crime at a certain point? Like,
well, it's a waste of taxpayer money. Yeah.
I think that's the real messaging of the final Leary scene. As much as it's about his character and their relationship, he's also saying like, these are victimless crimes that were done for this guy's amusement. Everything has now basically been reset to the way it needs to.
Like, if anyone had pointed a gun at anyone in this movie, it would be a little different, but no one does. Like, the worst crime he commits is like breaking the Met's air conditioning system, which is rude of him. But, you know, that's about it, I think.
But also, like, all the game pieces are reset on the board now. So are you really going to waste like taxpayer dollars prosecuting and investigating?
Right.
Two perfectly horny people.
Right. Let them
Your Honor.
Yeah. No, it's what I like about that scene where he's like, this is a waste of my time.
Right.
To follow this any further.
Totally. And I like in the context of the movie, it's a very elegant way of making everyone feel okay about rooting who they're rooting for. And like and making you feel okay that you're not that worried about the stakes, because like I'm not. It's just some paintings. Everything's gonna be fine.
Yes.
But I'm just like, are they on the run now?
I don't think so.
Like, does he have access to all his assets? Like, maybe it's just a New York thing, and in Europe, it's people aren't going to care.
If they are on the run, it is a very lush run that they're on.
Sure,
like, they can go to many countries probably and enjoy a fine life.
My read is that the coup he pulled off is that the end result is they don't need to be on the run.
Right.
Right.
Maybe they don't want to flaunt everything they're doing loudly.
Yeah, it's true because it's like they are still like chasing down the forger.
Right.
You know, so it's like, and Dennis Leary even is kind of just like, I mean, we have to, you know, I'll do what they tell me. We have to like follow these things. He's like, you didn't think we just gave up on the forger. But it's like, it doesn't, and the museum guy is pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
You know, like
mad.
they've shut down the Impressionist wing so that he can't just walk in and put it back because they have been insulted, you know? So I don't know if the museum is going to drop it necessarily because it doesn't set a good example, right?
It's just a terrible example. I will say it's a terrible example, but I imagine it's a little bit like a Lost Dog poster.
Sure.
That adds like no questions asked underneath.
Right.
Where they're like, you know what? In the greater good of the thing, even if we know that you're like running a con on us and we're paying you money to give back what you stole, we'd rather just have everything where it's supposed to be. No harm, no foul.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But it's also, it's the fugitives with resources line where I think part of it too is like, this guy is so high level in society, so rich, that like normal laws kind of don't apply to him.
Right.
As long as there are no loose ends to what he did.
Right.
Everyone's just going to go like, whatever. He plays by a different set of rules.
It's true.
Yeah.
I do, of course, want to note they, of course, did not shoot in the Met because the Met doesn't want that. So they built the Met. But a lot of location stuff in this movie that is very nice.
Didn't they use the New York Public Library for like some of the
exteriors? Sure.
Yeah, or I think that they use the Met for the exteriors, but maybe some of like the lobby stairwell stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah, the really impressive stuff.
When he walks in and is like, let's play ball, you know, it's like that isn't a set, right? Like that's a lot of stonework. I don't know.
No, you're right. I mean, it's something. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Are they building marble staircases for?
Well, yeah. What's that apartment of his? Yeah, exactly. But
exactly.
Townhouse, you know. That Monet is not at the Met. You have to go to Cardiff to see it. Maybe one day I will. Well, you should play the box office game, Griffin. Is there anything else we need to cover?
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
So he pulls it off.
He does,
right? He does it. Yeah.
It pains me to have to admit this, but I don't think that if it were me, that I would be able to pull it off. Normally,
you could
I
do the art crime. Right.
Ben tends to watch any heist movie or crime movie where things go wrong
and be like, you could have navigated that.
His famous line is,
I would end up with an island.
The movie would end with me owning an island.
Okay.
And so this is very big and mature of Ben to admit that the movie heist is better than what he could pull off.
It's very, very clever, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it requires a level of art history knowledge. And I don't think I could fit under that gate. So, you know,
right.
I'm impressed. I have to.
Okay. It's very big of you, Ben. This, as we said, comes out sleeper success to the extent that it totally masks the odor of 13th Warrior coming out in the same month. And the experience is so good. I feel like McTiernan talks about this as being his favorite of his movies and definitely feels like in an alternate universe, this is the career transition point where the next phase of his career is making these types of high-class adult thrillers.
Right.
And instead, he goes, well, this works so well. Why don't I try to replicate the same circumstances of this movie as much as I can, re-up with MGM for another Norman Jewison remake, and he does, to disastrous effects. But this movie comes out on the box office game weekend, does it not, David?
It does. It comes out the same weekend, August 6th, 1999, as, what's the film, Griffin?
The Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense, which is
this is what originates
Oh.
the box office game as a segment on our podcast covering Sixth Sense very early on, where I tried to see if I could guess what else opened, because I remember it being this multi-car pileup weekend,
right,
where a bunch of stuff went out and everything kind of underperformed other than Sixth Sense.
Yeah, what's number 3?
What's number 1 is Sixth Sense.
Thomas Crown is opening number 4. It opened to $14 million, but it legged out to 70, 125 worldwide. It was the sleeper hit.
It's the only one that actually held on, because the other, I know these are all out of the 5. The other movies that bombed this weekend are Mystery Men, Iron Giant, and Dick.
Yes.
Oh, Dick, I remember
3
Dick.
great movies, all bombing hard. Number 2 would have been a holdover from July.
Number 2 has been in the it's been out for a month. What's the movie, Griffin?
Is it Blair Witch?
The Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
All right.
One of the biggest movies of the year, obviously. And another horror film. People are having some summer horror with Sixth Sense and Blair Witch Project. But number 3 is a movie that I saw in theaters. Romantic comedy. Amanda, you may have seen it in theaters. Star Driven.
Is it a movie, David, with the most successful joke in the history of cinema?
The most successful line reading I've ever seen delivered in a movie theater. Yes.
Runaway Bride.
Yep. Hector Elizondo's FedEx joke, of course, is what I'm referring to.
David says he has never to this day seen a warmer reaction to anything from an audience in his life.
Insane when he made that joke.
What's the
Amanda.
joke?
Tell the joke again.
It's when she does the Runaway Bride, right? Like she finally does it. You're not sure if she's gonna do it, and then she runs away and jumps onto a FedEx truck. And I think Rita Wilson, sorry, not Jolie Fisher, says, "Where's she going?" And Elizondo says, "I don't know, but she'll be there by 10:30 tomorrow." And the audience went insane. Do you like Runaway Bride, Amanda?
No, not really.
It's okay.
It's okay. But I mean, you're right that I saw it this opening weekend. Yeah. When in 99 does Notting Hill come out?
99 came out. Notting Hill came out a little earlier, right?
May.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's see.
I think Notting Hill is May and Runaway Bride's end of July.
Yeah, correct. Notting Hill's not even in the box office list anymore. Rude.
It had its run.
So number 3, Runaway Bride. Number 4, Thomas Crown. Number 5, Ben, we were just talking about this movie. Oh my God. You love the song from it.
The two of you were talking about this without me?
No, you were there too.
I was there too.
There's a rapper is in the film and he has a song attached to this film, Griffin and Ben.
Yeah,
yes,
of course. It's a song that's been sort of lodged in my brain since
of course.
It's kind of been in your head like a shark's fin.
Sort of at the top of my head as if it were a shark's fin.
Which LL Cool J said his head looks like a shark's fin.
My hat is like a shark's fin.
My hat. Sorry. I don't have the line committed to memory the same extent you do.
Yeah. So Deep Blue Sea. I don't know where you are on Deep Blue Sea, Amanda, if you're anywhere.
Is that the one where... Is it Sam Jackson gets eaten like very dramatically? I mean, that's where I am.
Fun movie.
Yeah.
Number 6 is Mystery Men. Number 7, Inspector Gadget. Reboot Inspector Gadget with Griffin Newman. Number 8, The Haunting. Number 9, new this week, The Iron Giant completely tanking.
Insane.
And number 10,
Insane.
American Pie.
And Dick doesn't even make the 10. Dick opens at 11 or 12. Dick is
opening number 12 behind the 12th weekend of The Phantom Menace.
Brutal.
Pretty brutal.
Wow.
Great movie, Dick. Very funny movie.
And one of the most exciting box office weekends of all time.
We've done it before. Will we do it again? We might be done.
This is the good question. Will any filmmaker bring us back to this weekend? This might be the final time we ever talk about. He also did The Craft and he did Hamlet 2. Andrew Fleming.
Yeah, maybe we'll do an Andrew Fleming series.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's
throw him on a bracket.
I think if those are blackjack, sure.
Yeah, we could do a one episode Kinka Usher series.
We could for Mystery Men, but yeah, we're probably winding down.
We could do Blair Witch on Patreon.
It's not new this week. Not new. I'm talking about new movies this week. So it's a great movie. So good that, as I said, McTiernan wrote a sequel in prison called Thomas Crown and the Missing Lioness.
So let's game that out a little. Can we?
Sure.
All right.
Let's just also call out quickly in I think 2007 when McTiernan is at a low, close to getting sentenced.
Yes.
MGM announced we're doing a Thomas Crown Affair sequel. We've hired Paul Verhoeven to direct with Pierce returning. The female lead, we're going to cast either Charlize Theron or Angelina Jolie. We're the two people in talks. And it was a remake of Tupaki.
Yeah.
They were doing it Die Hard style, taking another script and turning it into a Thomas Crown sequel.
I do kind of feel that is Pierce turning on someone at a low moment.
I think so too.
That's tough. But also, as you guys will get into, McTiernan sort of... he made some choices and then he was living with those choices.
I don't know how you have this movie end this way and not bring Rene back for the sequel.
Yeah,
that's almost the greater offense to me.
It would stink.
Yeah.
But the McTiernan, the Verhoeven of it was exciting as an idea.
So the missing lioness.
Yes, that's what it was called. It was about some lioness statues from 1100 BC, apparently.
Oh, great.
Some kind of legend.
BC.
Yes.
Okay.
So I assume it's them stealing them or something. I don't know.
Or maybe someone else stole them and then they have to help find it. Or they're trying to find it to outwit them. It's sort of like a Ocean's 12. What's the Night Fox situation, where you've got two thieves up against each other?
A heist off.
Sure.
Yeah, that could be fun. We should note, of course, that Michael B. Jordan supposedly was going to reboot.
Right, yeah.
This is
Thomas Crown.
But he's in a similar position to Pierce, where it's like, I have a franchise at MGM.
Right.
They want to keep me in-house. What do we have the rights to that we could refit around you?
Right.
They keep making it sound like every year begins with, this is the year the Michael B. Jordan Thomas Crown affair is finally going to go into production.
Yeah.
And it's been that for 7 or 8 years, but they seem adamant that it's actually going to happen this year.
Well,
okay.
I'll believe it when I see it.
We'll see.
I like Michael B. Jordan. Him doing something like that successfully would be exciting because he hasn't really done that successfully.
I like Michael B. Jordan a lot, and I think he has a lot of charm and charisma. And I guess, they could the nice thing about this Thomas Crown affair is that he is like debonair in a way that is like kind of like Bond, but actually more fitted to Pierce Brosnan's vibe than Bond is. So, I'm sure they can fit it to Michael B. Jordan's vibe. That said, I don't know if I think he's like really good at acting, so that is tough.
I wonder if he can. How many movies does he have like sexual charisma in? And it's like that's going to be crucial to a Thomas Crown.
But
movie.
should he be expressing that more often in his work? Is that one of the reasons
he should?
A lot of his career hasn't lived up to what we thought?
If he can, he should, and I'd like him to.
Amanda, thank you so much for doing this.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. A
long-time
true
dream.
honor.
Such a fan of your work.
Thank you so much.
Such a fan of Big Picture.
I'm such a fan of Blank Check, and I'm really excited to be here. Also, thank you as always for answering my texts about animated films.
We were giving you some tips on what was going to get nominated.
Yeah, and what I should pick whenever I need you guys. You're right there. It's like a phone a friend situation.
I just want to call out, if you revisit the text thread and scroll up, I called out Robot Dreams as a surprise sleeper, and David shot it down as like, that's some Lights, Camera, Jackson shit.
Okay.
Cutesy shit. But no, people liked it. People liked it. I forget what Turtles got snubbed. What got snubbed in the end? Was it Turtles that got
this? Was my argument.
Turtles.
I mean, once again, revisit the text thread. I said there's no way they will let themselves nominate Turtles and Spider-Verse in the same year.
Yeah, well,
Okay. And you were right.
That was my stance. It's just like the same space.
It seems like a perfectly solid 5, except for Elemental. Anyway,
I didn't think that was good.
No.
Now, I have maybe been setting up the perfect heist in this episode, which is I have another podcast record that I need to get to across town, so I need to exit the studio as quickly as possible. I am now assigning Ben and David with doing the outro.
All right, I'll do it.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Leigh Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song, Joe Boner and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, AJ McKeon and Alex Barron. Check out the Reddit for real nerdy shit. Why do we keep plugging that? He's got to cut that. And as always, sex on a marble staircase. All right, we're done.